sometimes it's just good to crack one open with the boys. Tanner, don't you think that's how you ended up in AA? And we're back with the Tanner Vance Show. Now listen, the audio quality on this show was such shit, man. I don't know what it is. I did something wrong. The last time I did something on Zoom, it went perfectly fine. I don't know. I think that I understand it now. Obviously, I didn't do the homework I thought that I had done. So, I am ahead of time apologizing for the audio quality. Man, like, if I didn't think that this was such a quality show, I would not be showing it, and I would not be doing this. So, I hope you enjoy it still. It's a really great, awesome conversation. I got to sit down, and we've been talking about doing this for months, but I got to sit down with my cousin / brother. Amazing, amazing guy. We had such a good time. We talked about forgiveness and kind of finding your path in life. We talked a lot about comedy, kind of creating things on the side, what we've all had an interest in. So it's a good episode, and I stand by it, and that's why I'm posting it. I think I found a time to really be myself and open up in a way, and just very comfortable just dinking around. I don't know. I'm rambling right now, but it's because it's such a good episode. I know you'll enjoy it. I wouldn't post it otherwise. But anyways, enjoy the show. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Dustyn Kamensky.
Because this is going to be like an hour, 2 hour long thing. I bet you. I guarantee it.
Yeah, probably something around like that. So, all right. Well, buddy, I'm just going to start it off with some of your work questions. Just want you to rant about that for a little bit. But
okay.
First, you want to just explain what it is to be a machinist? What is it you do?
Well, a lot of people don't understand what it is. And the best way that I figured out how to try to explain it is that I cut metal with harder metal.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I've heard you say that before.
Yeah. Because a lot of, I could tell people oh, well, I work with lathes and mills and, CNC, lathes and mills.
Yeah. Well,
and they, machine shops, they're typically kind of kept away from society. You know what I mean? Like, you're just now starting to see the comeback of them in colleges, like trade schools and stuff like that. Like, I feel like within the last 5-6 years, they're starting to come out of the woodworks, Very few times have I ever said, oh, I'm a machinist. And somebody's like, oh, yeah, that's awesome, dude. Wow.
Right. Well, and knowing actually what you mean.
Right. Most people are just like, oh, well, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, and I just know by the response, I just look at them and I'm like, you don't know what that is, do you? And they're like, no.
Yeah, I was just being polite.
Yeah, I was like, you weren't going to tell me, were you? No.
Yeah, right. Well, and I mentioned it to Sid at some point that you were a machinist. I want to say he only knew what it was because he'd seen YouTube videos where he'd just so happen to have seen people making just weird because I didn't even know what it was until you kind of showed me. You're like, hey, I made this, and I'm like, oh, you just make things out of metal?
Yeah.
Oh, I always wondered how that shit came about, but I didn't know what. And then I guess whenever I imagined it, I always imagined it like some medieval blacksmith still just hammering away at stuff. I didn't even think, which it makes sense that you were over there playing with a laser and stuff, and you were typing stuff into the machine. And I think you showed me once, and I was like, I have no idea what that is. What he's typing in. Fully
automated lasers and punches and fully automated machining centers, CNCs and stuff like that. And that's exactly my point, is that, when you first think about it, oh, I work with metal. Most people's first instincts is exactly what you just said. They see some, they go back to Skyrim or
Right.
something like that. And it's, blacksmiths and, when, don't get me wrong, one of my old bosses was a blacksmith. So it's not like you're wrong to think that at all, because he made some stuff that even I can't make, just because I'm not a blacksmith. I was a blacksmith apprentice for about 6 months, basically. And I didn't, it wasn't full time either, but whenever we had something blacksmithing that came in, he taught me a thing or two. It's not like I did that for a living.
Right. But you dabbled in it.
I dabbled in it a little bit, and I do actually want to make my own blade at some point, because, I could machine a blade, right?
Mm.
Or I could forge a blade.
That one sounds better. Sounds cool.
Because even in high school, I did do some black sand castings and stuff like that, and that was in high school. I only did that for, I think, a quarter, but to say, oh, I have experience in sand castings. Well, not really, because it was only a quarter. It wasn't even a full semester. And, I only did a couple of castings. So if I was going to try to go back and do that again now, well, trust me, I'm going to have to read the owner's manual because...
Right. It feels disingenuous to say. It's almost like I did a semester of college. It feels a little weird if, like, I'm amongst other people who all, like, went to a 4-year college. I'm like, I also went to college. I did.
Right.
You did, but you didn't, Tanner.
Yeah. Oh, what's your degree in? Well, nothing.
I get around that by saying I went to college to learn to teach English, and then for most people it's like whoosh, it goes right over. They're like, they just accept. They're like, oh, cool. And they're like, so how come you're not teaching? And then that's when I get in trouble. I'm like,
yeah, it's the follow-up. You're like, that's when you just say like, well, I wasn't ready for a follow-up question, but I, I'm going to glance that off my forehead as well. So what you been up to? Yeah, like,
I'm between jobs.
Yeah. Well, actually, the economy crashed right after I graduated and,
yeah,
I still haven't picked myself back up yet.
Yeah, and I thought I'll just work side jobs till I get there. The lower income was pretty appealing to me.
Yeah. I got to live more of my life. Yeah, I wasn't.
Like
I didn't want to be.
Man.
I didn't want to be held down. Yeah, as should be your response.
Well, thanks, buddy. You've helped me out for when I needed the next lie.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah,
well,
you didn't learn that from me though. You keep my name out of your mouth.
Dustyn Kamensky taught me to lie.
Yeah, Dustyn don't lie. I'm very honest person.
So what does a day look like? And is this the same for each of the jobs? Because I know that you haven't like just singularly worked at one place, this whole time throughout your machining career since, you graduated. But even at all the different places, are you dealing with about the same kind of routine every day or the same kind of work you're doing?
Oh, not necessarily. It changed quite a bit from job to job. And I've really only had like we'll say four jobs based around metallurgy, and all of them were really significantly different because the first job I had right after college was when I worked with the blacksmith. He wasn't a machinist. He didn't know anything about machining. So coming straight out of college, I thought I knew everything. And then reality hit me in the face because I was at a place that was mostly fabrication and dabbled in a little bit of machining. But it was one of those things where parts came in that needed fixed, and I haven't done it yet because college, 2 years of college can only teach you so much. And that was with manual machining and CNCs. And, so I feel like even a 4-year college wouldn't have been able to prepare me for something as similar as the real world experience. I almost say to this day that instead of college, I wished I would have just done a 4-year apprenticeship.
Right.
Because there's something different about learning it from a book and then learning it because now you need to be the one to fix it. You need to figure it out. And if you can't figure it out, where I'm at now with my job is I do have a couple of master machinists I do have a couple of master machinists in my shop with me. The problem at that job I had straight after college is that my boss knew nothing about machining. He was a blacksmith and a fabricator. So when things came in, and I haven't done anything like that yet with my 2-year degree, I had nobody to ask. I couldn't ask him for any help because he didn't know anything about it. He really didn't. Even
Did
some
anyone
of the
else there know anything?
No, it was me, my boss, and one other coworker, and that coworker was a welder. He'd never machined before in his life.
Okay.
So I found myself. My uncle Tony is a machinist in Nevada. Owns his own shop. So these couple of parts came in and whatnot straight out of college, and I couldn't ask anybody in my shop. I knew in that shop there was only 3 of us. I knew the most about machining than both of them combined, and I still had questions. Like I still wasn't sure on how to do this. So I found myself calling my uncle Tony up almost every day and asking him simple questions, which today for me now, after a couple more years experience, were just so simple of questions and now wouldn't be a problem for me. But I do have that experience or the privilege basically of having a couple of master machinists that can guide me in the right direction. And if I have a question, they know exactly the answer. And sometimes they won't give me the answer because they, a machinist's motto is to fix the things that other people can't. So sometimes they'll just say, well, how would you do it? And I'd be like, oh, well, I think I'd do it like this. And they just like smile and be like, then go do it.
I don't know. That's why I'm calling you.
And then sometimes he'll just look at me and be like, what are you? And I'm like, I'm a machinist. And he's like, and what do we do? I said, we solve problems. And he says, so go solve the problem.
Just kind of do a little spin, just then come back around. All right, well, I still have the problem.
I screwed it up. Yeah. Yeah. I thought I had the answer. Turns out I didn't, but no. And so, and then my current boss now, the master machinist, it's kind of funny because if I have a question for him, I can't say the word can't. If I say I can't figure it out or I can't get the right surface finish or anything like that, he'll just say, what did you say? And I said, nothing. And he's like, you just said the C word. Obviously, my head goes in a different direction when somebody says C word.
Obviously.
But obviously. So I was like, I actually told him that once. I was like, I didn't say the C word.
Yeah.
And he was like, no.
I'll go to
can't.
HR.
Yeah. I was like, dang it, I need to file a report now, don't I? No. He was just like, no, you said the word can't. And I was like, oh, yeah, I did. Yeah, that C word. Okay, yeah.
No, I didn't say that.
But you can't say that word in front of him because in his eyes, there is no can't. And he's slowly beating that into me. There is no I can't do this or I can't do that. We are problem solvers. You find a way. Even if that's not the best way, you figure it out and you get that job done. Because that farmer or that miner, whatever, if they're mining bentonite, there's a lot of bentonite mines around here. There's a bunch of farmers. Sugar beets is a really big thing down here. Corn. If that farmer's down and he needs that tractor or swather, just like anything. Like I was working on a part for a swather the other day, and they're on a time frame. You know what I'm saying? They're feeding America.
Yeah, well, if you don't give him that part and he can't do his work, then we all suffer for it.
Exactly. So that farmer needs that equipment. There is no can't. Because you're not going to go back to that farmer and say, well, I'm sorry. Because a lot of those parts, these farmers, at least where we live, they're not big rig farmers. Mm-hmm. They have older equipment, and they make it work. They put food on our tables for us.
Mm-hmm.
And most often than not, these farmers, when they bring something in, they say, well, I can't buy a new one. They're not making parts for them anymore.
I wondered that too. Like I was thinking that with your machining work, I was like, I wonder how often like the common person runs into that problem where there's a part or a thing that can't get in anymore. And I'm like, well, that's not a problem when you literally can make it yourself.
Right.
especially on old cars and all that.
Imagine your laptop. Hard drive goes out on it. You take it in to get it fixed, and they say, well, there's no replacement parts for this thing. What do? You go buy a new one. You go buy a whole new computer. These farmers can't afford to buy a brand new machine,
Well, especially if you're like one of the little ranchers out here. Yeah, it's not like it's some huge company like people imagine. I imagine that's how it usually is with most things. It's small farmers, small ranchers, especially all out here that fuel probably a lot of the country.
Yeah, they're the backbone to a lot more than people think. I mean, imagine you get off of work, right, and you're hungry. What are you going to eat if farming wasn't a thing? Like farmers,
Right.
Bigger operations than just the little garden in your backyard.
Cannibalism's
sure, you can
looking pretty good.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. I mean, because, sure, you can grow things in your backyard, but when it's wintertime and you can't grow in the dirt.
Out here, yeah, especially.
Yeah.
Because winters are harsh.
Winters are harsh. This isn't California, or Nevada for that matter.
Right, and because of like the populations we're dealing with in all the countries now and all the world, like in America, there's over 300 million, 50 million people here. Like it takes a large scale of like just about everything. Like the industry, we have to be able to feed all those people, and we do good, but yeah, like it takes this large scale stuff in order to do it. And
right,
turns out it all starts with Dustyn.
Well. People like me very much so, yeah, because even the current equipment, tractors, whatever else that they have, processing plants, stuff like that, all that, somebody made that stuff. If somebody didn't make it and a CNC made it, basically a computer made it, did all the machine work for you. Somebody still had to engineer that, draw it up, program it. Somebody had to go put it in their machine and proof run it and then make the part and then mass produce that part. And, so, I mean, everything that you see is machined. Your salt shakers, or at least engineered in some shape or form. Your cell phone, your microphone, your computer, there's parts in there that some CNC operator made the parts for, that doesn't just magically appear.
Is that what the CNC is? Wait, can you explain what that is a little bit?
It's a computer. Well, it's like instead of me doing it, a computer writes the program, and it's called G&M code. Commands and movements, right? And it does the work for you. If programmed correctly, it does the work for you. All you have to do is, put the part in, touch off your tools, touch off your part, and then hit go. And then when you open that door, you have a finished part that comes out. So, I mean, but when you think of manual machining, right, it's the same thing, except for I'm doing the work. I'm making that machine go from point A to point B. I'm doing the measurements, It's just, it's like almost thinkless work compared to an insane amount of math, The amount of math that I have to deal with in a day while running my manual machines, and even my CNCs a little bit, But for the most part, the computer does it for me.
Do you use the CNC more for just mass production?
Yeah,
like kind of just the mindless.
That's basically
probably once you've done it
that
first
exactly,
and you've programmed it.
That is exactly what it is. It's a lot harder to make. Well, also depending on the simplicity of the part. If the part's very complex, it might just be easier for me to draw it up, program it, and put it in the machine. But for the most part, CNCs are for manufacturing, not job shop. So job shop machining is somebody bringing you something and saying, oh, this broke, I need one or two of these, or I need this fixed. Manufacturing is other companies and industries saying, we have a part that we need made to complete the assembly of something we're making. Like your microphone, for instance. Like somebody might come to you and say, well, we need this part made
in mass.
in mass for this line of microphones that we're trying to make, or and so then you'll get, you'll shoot them a bid for however many dollars per part, and most companies, they'll go to many different manufacturers, and whoever has the lowest bid with the best ratings or whatever, they'll get that part. You sign a contract, and now you got to make 100 of those parts a month or a week or in a day. It just depends on the need.
Because so like the place you work for, a lot of these, like, I mean, it's not a big company or anything like that, like a chain. It's not like anything like that. So how do some of these manufacturers like find places like where you work at? Like, where do they are they anymore by this time in life just in contact with most shops and all that stuff? Or like, do we just do business? Do you just do business with manufacturers in the area? Or
most of the people that we work with, yeah, they are by area. We have a contract with a couple of companies, one out of Basin, just 30 miles away from us, one out of Casper. And normally with the state, the state, other companies in the state will find machine shops capable of making parts such as that. And whoever sends them in the lowest bid per part, usually, you get the contract. So that's exactly what it is. Companies also in this state, just, I don't know if it's by name that they found you or if they Googled you and said, oh, well, maybe these guys can make this part. And then they'd send you a blueprint of it, and you have to look it over, consider your material costs, labor costs, your shop fees, everything. Do I need to buy specialized parts for this? And, you got to consider that into your bid. And basically all of the stuff that we manufacture is for some company in the state of Wyoming. Yeah. That doesn't go for all the time, though. Like the big shops, the corporations almost, I bet they get jobs from overseas, because
right.
They specialize in that stuff. We dabble in a little bit of both, the job shop and a little bit of manufacturing. For the most part, job shop. So we don't take in all, companies' bids. If it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. We're not in a situation to where it's do all, because we are that smaller kind of shop.
Is business good enough to be really picky around? Like, I don't know. Things have probably been better, but I don't know about more recent times. But can you be picky about job? Like how often? I don't know about how picky can you be? And
you can be picky in some regards, because if it's a very complicated part and you have to buy specialized tooling and you have to think about tool life as well, you're not just going to buy one tool and then bust out a million parts with it. You're going to have to replace that tool. You're going to have to pay somebody to run that machine. You're going to have to pay somebody to program it, stuff like that. If you sit down with the numbers and you're not going to make money, that's basically what it comes down to. Anything that you don't think that you're going to make enough money on, you can still send them your bid, but that doesn't mean that they're going to accept you, and so there's been a couple of things that came in, and we, weighed the options. Oh, we're going to have to buy this specialized tooling, and it's going to be this many man hours per part, and, overhead cost, for the shop, the lights, the coolant that is in my machine, you got to consider everything. But there's some things that we were just like, one thing that I can think of that we were just like, we're not even going to send in a bid. Like, we don't even want to make this part, and that was when times were really good, through this whole pandemic, we really did take a hit. There was a couple of guys.
Okay.
There was a couple of guys. There was a couple of guys in the shop that were, cleaning the lights, wiping down walls, changing.
That's a demotion.
Well, I mean, they got paid the same amount, but it's just like,
true.
So they, because I know that they don't, I always had something to do, You know, we have more fabricators than, you know, and welders than machinists. It's me, my boss. That's the machinist right there.
Oh, that's a pretty good gig then in that case.
Yeah, you know,
I didn't know that.
I'm not easily disposable of. I'm not going to try to sound cocky or anything like that, but I never wiped down lights. I never changed out coolant in other people's machines. You know, and I'm not trying to sound like the cock of the walk when I say that, but
no, but it is what it is.
You know, it is what it is. Because when times got slow in the manual shop, well, that's when I pick my stuff up, go to the CNC room, bust out some you know, some manufacturing parts for companies that we know are going to be ordering them soon. You know, or just practicing with the programming and the graphic designing and stuff like that. There was always something for me to do, something for me to learn. I don't know what you do for a fabricator / welder when times are really slow. Are you just going to go tell them to go practice their, you know, their butt welds, or, you know?
Yeah, right.
Go practice your vertical welding. Okay, you know. But there's always something that needs cleaned as well, you know. With all due respect, everything needs cleaned. Everything needs maintained, you know. Change the air filter out in the CNCs, change out the coolant, you know, clean, just wipe down the CNC. You know, you got to keep those things pretty dang clean. You know, the rule of thumb for, because I dabble in the YouTube videos.
I figured. Because you got a passion for this. It's not like this is just a thing you do. I don't go look up YouTube videos on how to serve old people food. Like, I didn't know that.
Right. This isn't just a paycheck for me. This is, you know, I know what I want to do with my life and my career. And I've known that since I was about 13 or 14, when I went to Nevada and stayed at my uncle's place for a while. And I got to see him machine stuff. And I got to see my cousin, same age as me, my cousin Eric. I got to see him helping his dad and, you know, machining this, machining that. And, you know, that's since I think I was 13 or 14 when I like just had a passion for it already. And I hadn't even gotten my hands on a machine yet. I just saw it and I knew I wanted it. And then, you know, go to college for it. You know, I did some machining classes in high school as well, but I knew I wanted to do it for quite a long time. It's not just a paycheck for me.
Right. Well, and I knew that you always grew up with a, I guess, mechanically based family. I mean, because I guess even when you were little, I always knew you were going to end up going into something that involved like, you know, machines, parts, working on something. I just felt like a very you thing. But I guess when you did machining, a lot of it just comes from a lot of people don't even know what machining is, like we talked about. So I never knew that specifically, but I guess before that, then, I mean, you probably always just assumed you'd do the same thing, you know, just mechanical work, something.
Well, I always knew I was going to work with my hands. I was never very book smart, you know, and that's just something for me that never came easy, but working with my hands did. And so I grew a passion. I was 10 years old changing brakes and rotors out on our vehicles with my dad, you know, oil changes, you know, stuff. I mean, just not anything too absolutely crazy, but, you know, I was 10 to 12, you know, changing brakes out by myself. My dad would just be like, all right, I'll be back in 30 minutes. He'd come back, inspect them, make sure everything's all right, and tell me to put the tire back on it.
Yeah, see. Yeah, that's exactly how we all knew that's how you were going to go with that. Well, I mean, that's good, though, that you felt like you knew. I don't know, did you always feel that way, that you always had like a pursuit? Like you always kind of vaguely knew what you were going to do? It wasn't always like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. Did you ever have that crisis?
No, I really didn't. And that's where, like,
my lucky bastard.
My sister's at, like, you know, at that point with her life. A lot of people are. A lot of my friends are.
Around our age,
my family, people our age. Reality setting in that they need to start to find a career or a passion, rather. And I'd never had that issue. You know, I really didn't. Because even people my age or older than me, you know, are like, well, I want to go to college, but I don't know what for. And a lot of people have to understand that most of the reason of most of the reason to go to college is to figure out what you don't want to do with life. Hello.
Oh, you still there? I was kind of trying to do that shit.
Yeah, I was trying to do it. What do you want me to
Am I
pick up
back?
where I left off?
Oh yeah, yeah. As long as I'm back, if I'm not
No, you're
fucky,
good.
as soon as I started seeing it drop out, I quickly fucking stopped the recording. I was like, wait. So I got to back up now, but yeah, where were we?
People not knowing what they want to do with their careers
Oh yeah,
early in
yeah.
their
See
life.
how? Yeah, no. And I relate to that one. See, I guess we're on different parts there because I always just grew up. I don't know. It always seemed like through high school, I always just assumed that it was going to work out. Like, I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, but it'll come. I don't know. I don't even know, looking back on it now, what I really imagined how things were going to go. I think it was just unrealistic, obviously. But then, I graduated and I was like, well, I'll take a year off and just dink around. And then after that, it was like, fuck, I really don't know. And then I ended up, I went to school for a little bit and then I came back here and ended up just fucking partying and ended up, I guess, long story short, just basically putting it off, putting it on the back burner. But it's just like, for me, I have an experience of years of not knowing what I wanted to do. So, fuck, I understand that because you just, like you said, reality sets in. You're like, man, what am I going to do with my time?
Right. Well, and I've never see. I'm that like anomaly basically because like I knew what I wanted to do and what I wanted to go to college for from like I said like 13, 14 years old or something like that. And because I was always the kind of kid that would take apart toys,
Mm-hmm.
put them back together, and see if they still work, or
Right.
And I did that kind of stuff all the time, and so I at least knew I was going to work with my hands, like because I was never book smart. I never had any ambitions of basically doing anything besides like mechanicking, just something with my hands. And when I saw my uncle doing that stuff, it was like it just hit me, it was like euphoric almost. It was like I know what I'm going to do. And it was almost like a weight off my shoulders because it was like I wasn't playing the guessing game or the what if game or like panicking. Like when I started getting 15, 16 years old, when all of a sudden it's like, well, now you got to really think about if you want to go to college or not, or, what are you going to do with yourself? I never really had to have that conversation with myself.
Right. And for me, I think I'm still not even 100% convinced that I am like that weight is 100% lifted off my shoulders, but I know a little bit about what you're talking about just because it's like, if we want guidance, you want to wake up in the morning and know that you know what you're doing with your life, that you get up and you're like, I know what I need to do. You have some like, I'll get up and maybe I'm either going to work and doing the job I have to work, to pay the bills. But something I kind of learned about myself was just like, I'm good at, I suppose, talking to people. I think so anyway, but I've been talking to you about this kind of stuff for, I think, a long time, like that I've wanted to do this kind of stuff. So I don't know. It just, once I started like pursuing it in earnest, then I feel like I kind of understand more about what that weight is off my shoulders. Cause I see a lot of people that are just, don't get me wrong, I like to party, but
oh yeah,
you don't see people. You see a lot of people that like, they just work a job and they're not doing anything else, but then they say things like on social media or in person that they're sad or they're always depressed or there's something going on. And I'm like, it's probably because you're working a job to work it, but you're not waking up with purpose and there's nothing you're looking forward to.
right.
So I feel like that weight's not lifted off them.
Well, see, and this is a weird experience that I had working at that first job straight out of college. Was this random guy came in because he was supposed to get a job at John Deere, and he was this old, experienced mechanic, diesel mechanic, and he must have been 60 plus years old, and he apparently was supposed to go to John Deere and be their head mechanic. And he, like 2 weeks before he was supposed to pack up and move, he fell and did something. He slipped and fell and did something, and he broke his hip. and he was out.
Mm.
You know, his doctor said you can't do anything like with, you know, labor wise for like 3 or 4 months or more than that. I can't remember, but it was like months, you know. And they told him, well, we're gonna find a different applicant. We can't wait that long. And
Yeah,
so he
no one
came
probably
in.
would.
Yeah, no, and he came into our shop just to check it out. Like he wasn't even necessarily looking for. He you know, he did you know, talk to my boss, but apparently, you know, the small operation that he was running, that master mechanic wanted too much money an hour and stuff like that, so it was a no go. But he still came in after he talked to the boss and he toured the shop and he looked around, whatever else, and he just stood there talking to me for a little bit. And one of the things that he said to me, and then I'll never forget, and I can't even remember the guy's name. And he was out of somewhere in the east. You know, he wasn't from around here. He told me that the day that you wake up and you don't want to go to work is the day that you need to start looking for another job.
No, that's probably why it doesn't even matter if you know the guy's name. That's just a profound piece of information. That's just the truth. I mean, it's like they say, there's that old time saying of you'll never work a day in your life, you know, if you're working a job you like, you enjoy. But that's just kind of my thing is I started, you know, I've worked a bunch of different little jobs here and there, and I've come to realize that none of them are, I don't think there's a single like, you know, unquote job out there for me that I'd like. I'm interested in a lot of things, you know, I'd like to, like, say I took up machining, I'd probably give it a try for a little bit. And I'd go, this is really interesting. But then after like a few weeks, few months, or something, I'd be like, okay, I'm over it, and then I'd want to move on to something else.
Because that passion's not there.
No, it's just, it's interesting, but
yeah,
it's almost like for me, I took things apart when I was a kid, but I didn't put them back together. I just took them apart, and I was like, oh, okay, that's how that works, and moved on. It wasn't a passion or anything like that. So, yeah, no, that's huge, and the fact that you have that ability, I think that's unique, and I'm obviously glad that you got to have that. But with that being said, is there anything else on the side? I mean, of course you love your job, but when you get off work, is there anything else? Like, you're probably okay with lounging because you spent the day doing a thing you really liked, but is there anything else you want to pursue on the side, or do you just, is work enough for you? Which, that's cool if it is. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, but you know, I'm just the opposite.
Well, I like to, because you have fun when you get home, you know, in a sense. And exactly. You know, well, you saw it at the, you know, get together we just had. I like to get off work and I like to work with my woodworking in the garage. You know, I haven't done it too much lately because, you know, my foot was still a little on the messed up side. And and I'm still dealing with that, actually. Laugh it up. Yeah. Laugh it up.
I forgot to ask you about that. Well, you haven't asked me about my ass recently, so.
No, I haven't. No. I just assume that you've all healed up and everything's fine and dandy.
It's scarred.
Yeah,
I'll never be an ass model again.
No, I bet it's pretty messed up down there.
It's dark purple
it's like
now.
like a tranny that works 7 days a week and overtime on Sunday, you know.
I've been pedaling my ass too hard, and it shows.
Yeah. But so I messed up my foot, obviously, that weekend a little bit. So
alcohol was involved.
It was slightly involved. All right, don't drink and ride dirt bikes, kids. Doesn't mix. If you do drink and ride dirt bikes, wear your gear,
don't wear your gear, and don't tell the guy that burnt his ass the day before, like, I'm gonna one up you.
And I said that night too. I said, well, somebody's got to one up you, or something, or at least break even.
You and I couldn't let me have the spotlight.
I broke even. I don't think I outdid you by any means. Yours makes a way better story than mine. But because what am I gonna say? You know, I drank and fell off my dirt bike, and everybody was watching, and it was, you know, it was hilarious, you know, and I'm still walking with a limp. And your story, what?
I think
I got drunk and pressed my ass against a fire pit lid, and I had almost 3rd-degree burns on both of my butt cheeks. That's a better story.
I think I liked yours too, because it was just a weekend of fucking, like, by the end of it, we wake up. It was like 2 nights of heavy drinking, and then we're just limping away. We're just like, you're limping, and I'm like waddling, holding my ass. And it's like, we party too goddamn hard.
Yeah. Both of us on the ride home were hungover and hurting because you were sitting on your ass, and my foot was my foot was on the gas pedal, also touching the floorboards, and it hurt. Just driving home.
Ow.
Just with my foot resting on the floorboard, it hurt. And just with you sitting on your seat, it hurt,
Yeah, and especially when it got hot, it would heat them leather seats. I had to bring like a blanket out there and sit on that and
so that the dead skin didn't suction cup to the leather seats.
Let me tell you about the toilet seats. I had to put some paper down first because I was afraid of it like sticking to my ass after a long bowel movement session, and then standing up and
a good BM. Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. I sat on the toilet for too long. Sweat accumulated and created a suction cup.
Suctioned the skin off my ass. There's just a permanent peel on the employee toilet seat at work.
Yeah. Not to mention infections or whatever else, whatever your coworkers would have left on that fucking seat behind you.
No, that's why I kept it bandaged up, because I was thinking like, oh, I don't know where some things have been. Plus, what if I got to take a crap? I never heard about putting a crap in wounds is any good. So,
yeah, this isn't the Civil War where they used to do that.
We have higher standards for hygiene. God damn it! So
yeah,
I applied that to my life. But we went off on a tangent there, which is totally okay. But what we were talking about? Oh, you weren't getting much work done. What with your injury?
Oh yeah, my hobby. Yeah, no, because it requires me to stand for long periods of time, because that's all I do at work is I stand. And then when I come home and work in the garage on my projects, I stand. And so with my foot being hurt, I just haven't been really working on my project. I did start a new project since I gave that one to my sister, but I only cut out one piece of it and glued a couple other pieces down and whatnot. So it's definitely in the works, but nowhere close to being even halfway done.
Right. And I only bring this stuff up because I know obviously we're in different pools here as far as how we spend our time and all that, and our passions and the things we enjoy, or whether we like working or not. But I ask it because I know that you've also always had an interest in some of the stuff that I've had an interest in, like creating some of this stuff. Like, I mean, well, you're a funny fucking guy too. So I know you're interested in comedy.
Well, and I'll just bring this little flashback to you. It'll be like deja vu.
Oh.
We were what? 10 to 12?
I've killed a lot of brain cells. I'll try to think back that hard.
Carrying around that, now it's an antique, but that video recorder, trying to make little tiny home movies. And I remember I gave you a bloody nose on accident trying to make one of them. And
I acted like a girl, I remember. You hurt my nose.
Yeah. That was the end of the video. You're supposed to play it off like Leonardo DiCaprio slicing his finger open on set, but
I wasn't ready.
No. Yeah. So we were trying to make that skit, and I was supposed to joke around like punching you or whatever, and I actually smacked you pretty good, and I busted your nose open. And instantly movie over. I don't think we recorded anything again.
No, I don't. End scene.
Yeah. Finn.
Yeah, Finn. Yeah, exactly. I don't think we ever picked it up again. But
no, we didn't.
We had an interest in it then, and then that wasn't the last time I ever picked up a camera. I remember I've got several instances throughout my life of course, they didn't go anywhere because obviously. But I remember lots of times with me and my friends and stuff picking up cameras and trying to do stupid skits. Kind of cringy when you went back and watched them later, but
that's what I'm afraid of. But then that's what you have to understand.
You have to start with that, though.
You got to start somewhere, And then I even think, I've been going back and watching some of the old stuff that we used to watch, some Whitest Kids and stuff like that. I've been trying to go through like most of their skits, or at least the ones that are good, and like even if you don't appreciate the skit that they're trying to give you, you do have to appreciate the hard work that goes behind it, because they had props, they had wigs, fake mustaches, fancy suits, for whatever scene that they were possibly doing.
And just being filmed alone is a huge thing. Like when she's like a lot of people, like when I first started doing this the first time, and I'm still not even entirely convinced about it all, but I hear myself, my voice, or when someone puts a camera, once you hit that record button, it's different. It's not the same as you would imagined it in your head before.
Right.
And
that's
easy.
that's where things get weird, is because even if I hear this back to myself, I'm sure I'll be like, holy shit, that's what I sound like, huh?
It takes some work, like anymore. I didn't do this with the first few episodes, but I kind of heard enough people kind of mentioning the idea enough that I decided I should probably start doing it. And I think I'm seeing the benefit in it already. I mean, I don't want to jump the gun on that, but a lot of it was just playing the episode back. Like, so anymore, what I do is I go through, when even if I don't think I need to edit it a lot, I'll just still listen to the whole thing. And then the day after I post it, like say I go to work or something, I'll just have my headphones in at work, and I'll literally like go to my own podcast and listen to the episode to make sure it sounds decent. But also I'm just listening for myself to make my critiques and stuff. So It's good in that I'm a little bit more used to hearing myself talk. And as I get better at stuff, it gets easier to hear myself talk, because now, I listen back and I'm like, oh, I think I did pretty good with that conversation. I don't feel so cringy about hearing my voice, So there's a whole, I've started doing that, but yeah, there's a whole stigma thing of listening back to yourself, seeing yourself, or when someone puts a camera or a microphone in front of you, you kind of freeze up. You're like, I'm shy. I'm a little embarrassed. I don't know what to do.
Yeah. One of the things that took me way out of my comfort zone was the play I did my senior year. That really, not necessarily the acting, because what's so funny is that we, during the dress rehearsal, basically, and it was just that little tiny theater in Kendrick Park, at the Kendrick Mansion, the Carriage House Theater. It only seats like 30 people, 35 people, maybe.
Okay.
And so it was a cute little place, not a huge crowd, because obviously none of us had done anything like that before. This is rural America. There's not fancy ass people trying to buy tickets for every Sunday night, So
yeah, there's not a lot of that going on.
No, there's really not. And even when we were practicing, it was just like dress rehearsal and then do like a dry run, no crowd. Even with no crowd, when it came to me, I froze, and there was no crowd. Just my teachers, my theater teachers.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only people in the audience. Everybody else was backstage getting dressed, getting ready, whatever else. I had a couple of people on stage with me, but when it came my part, I just froze. Nothing came out at all. And then once the next night, when you put a crowd in there, the ironic part about this all is I did not freeze.
Oh, really? What do you think happened there, I guess, for you?
Oh, heck, I don't know. The part that I did freeze at for when the audience was there was actually the singing. It was a musical. And I'm very much not confident with my singing voice. And so the acting part, I've always had some sort of a passion for trying to act, I always told myself I was either going to be a professional dirt bike rider, motocross, supercross, whichever one, or I was going to be a professional actor, right? Because when you're
be
a
only
kid,
one of those.
Yeah, it could be either one of those. That's like really the only dreams that I had. Realistically, I wanted to be a machinist. If it was the dreaming world, I wanted to be an actor. Much anymore, I've fallen off my dirt bike too many times to want to be professional at it. I don't want to be professional at falling off my dirt bike.
Well, especially like you say, you fall off too many times. I mean, you probably end up fine, but there's always a chance you might not. You might not walk away fine.
You could die. There's been people to do it,
Oh yeah.
There's been people to die.
You wouldn't be the
doing
first.
That.
But yeah, the acting part, as far as saw your little Leon there. It was cute.
No, you didn't.
Right.
Yeah. Get back on topic.
Yeah, come on. The acting, I think everyone kind of has like a little bit of an instinct to want to act and all that. I think it's because we're in our heads. We think of funny scenarios. We imagine ourselves doing stuff. Maybe I don't know. Everyone thinks they're the funniest person they've ever met too. There's that element, and I don't know. So I think there's always something in it, and I think most people could, but I think there has to be like a switch or something. I don't know, in your head. It's got to be just used to people seeing you, and you're okay with performing, like putting on what is an act, and being someone other than yourself. But we all kind of spend so much time trying to be ourselves and find out who that is. That how the fuck do you know how to flip the switch for acting?
Right. Well, and then like some of the stuff that I've seen of comedians. Well, I can't remember his dang name. I can't remember which exact performer it was. But he said that he felt like you had to start off on that local level, and you had to get used to the crowd, the hecklers, you couldn't freeze up on the spot. You know, he was very firm on that. He said you have to start off at the local level and get used to performing in front of 35, maybe 50, 100 people instead of just trying to jump headfirst into a big gig.
Well, I always heard that, and I've heard several people say it. I know Joe Rogan has said it. They give you like a timestamp of almost like 10 years before you can. They're like, you have to put in your 10 years before you can ever even hope to be professional. And it's like, damn, that long. But it's probably because you got to spend so much time, like you just said, on that local level, or like, you got to probably start. What you'll probably do is go to some club, and by the time they do open mic nights, like only a handful of people are going to stick around and watch and stuff like that. Most people are probably coming in to watch the big shows. So
right,
you probably just got some people there having a drink, watching you try to get up there. And
right. Well, and then that gives me another thought of something I heard on the Sirius XM. It was talking about Green Day in one of their first big performances. They, for some reason, came on after the main show, and I can't remember who it was that performed before them. And I think it was Green Day that was telling the story. But they said that for some reason the headliner went in the middle, and then Green Day was gonna go last. And they were supposed to be like a prelim to it, And they said that they got on stage and everybody was gone. The only people in the audience was the previous bands that just played.
Oh shit!
And they said that they still played. They still, and then they said that those guys came up to him afterwards and said that they put on one hell of a show. It was a real bummer that those people left after the main event.
Right. Well, you're gonna have to do that. You're not gonna ever just walk into an arena.
Right. Well, and then they blew up, because nobody had heard of them back then. And I bet those people are kicking themselves in the ass saying, well, I could have seen one of their first big performances, but instead I left because I didn't want to give them a chance. You see, that's the big issue that I have with performing. It's like you have to prove that you're worthy of it. But how do you prove that you're worthy of it if people aren't going to give you that chance?
Well, it's like that the paradox of kind of, a lot of businesses and jobs today, they do that thing of they want you to have experience, but the only way you can get experience is if they give you everybody's like, hey, if you gave me that job, that'd be some pretty good experience, buddy. But they're like, no, you gotta have that first. So as far as the bands go or any entertainment, you have to have that experience. Well,
and I ran into that with my machining career, because right out of college, I went to go apply for these jobs, and it says, must have 5 to 10 years experience to apply. And I'm like, well, how, 95% of the jobs that I applied for, even though I still did apply for them, just because I was taking that cold chance in hell that for some reason that they would still possibly give me a chance and they didn't. I think I got a couple of calls back, and then I told them that I was straight out of college. Almost like they didn't even look at my resume. They just saw that I replied and was like, "Oh, we should contact him."
Probably not.
And then they called me and I was like, "Yeah, well, I'm just straight out of college." And they're like, "Oh, well, it says 6 to 10 years experience." And I was like, "Yeah, I know." And they're like, "All right, well, you have a good day now." I'm like, "You too,"
Yeah.
But then but like much like that very situation, these were bigger jobs that I was applying for. These were bigger corporations, like L&H, stuff like that, and Aerotech, and so what did I do? Much like we were just talking about with comedy, what did I do? I went to that lower local level.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm just about at that point now where I am, gonna have that 6 to 10 years experience, and I can go to jobs like that. I'm not saying I will necessarily, because I'm very happy where I'm at, but
sure.
But if I had to,
could.
Yeah, I could if I had to or really wanted to. If shit hit the fan with this job or something like that, it just opens the door to other places, other experiences, and I bet you it'll be a very, very different situation. Every shop is different.
Yeah.
But when you get that experience, much like comedy, like we were just talking about, you need that experience first. You need that lower level experience.
And I feel like when you get your experience and you get a little bit of like taste for it all, you start learning a bunch. I feel like, eventually you want to like climb up the ladder and get better at anything. You want to start like accumulating. I mean, you've been accumulating knowledge, so then you want to start like, you want to start achieving higher things because everyone wants that. But I read an interesting book once. It was called The Third Door. And it was all about this guy trying to interview wealthy, like big people and stuff. And it's like his story about trying to like talk to Bill Gates and like how he was trying to like get Steven Spielberg to like interview and all that stuff. And anyways, but some of these people he talked to and they talk about how they started and all that. Yeah, everyone has to go through a phase of the grind. You got to sit at the grindstone and do that. I guess you're just a nobody who's just put in a bunch of effort, but you got to put in that effort. I don't think there's any way around it. You got to learn some of those lessons and stuff. And then eventually the hope is that you make that break eventually, that some door opens or some opportunity, or you're just doing, I don't know, far out there, outlandish shit to try and like really get your foot in the door, whatever it is you're doing. But I don't think I've ever heard of anyone that, and I guess unless you were born rich, but if you want to be like successful in something and rise up, I don't think I've heard of anyone that hasn't had to spend that time at the grindstone.
Right. There's a big difference between being born into something and having to work for it. Because look at such things as like the Sheen family. Charlie Sheen, stuff like their dad was an actor. And then both of his sons became actors.
Right. And that's probably an element of, it was your name was on it.
Right.
There's probably be like CEOs of corporations that they're in the family. You're probably already going to be accepted a lot of that stuff. Right. But I don't think you can. Well, I think that's what annoys me about some fields too. Is you get some people who come in and it's just because of either like who they know or I don't know. There's some people who just either aren't funny or someone's not even really good at something, but they get their foot in the door because of who they know, and it might just be like it's a name that households recognize. So they get a little bit of limelight for a second. But I still feel like you have to be good at something to stay.
Oh yeah.
Like you.
Well, yeah. Because how could you say that Charlie Sheen was a bad actor? You know what I mean? I think sooner or later everybody appreciated one of his roles in movies. So you can't just say like, oh, well, you would be nothing without your dad. Well, no, because he's
a good actor.
He was a good actor, and he, you got to give it to the man, and people much like it, even bigger businesses, corporations, whatever, when they hand the business down to their kids, well, do they go under because of that change? Are they capable of running that business? And you'll find that most times, no, they can't.
But maybe in some cases, like say like with Charlie Sheen, maybe it's that, he had a bit of privilege there, someone was probably more willing to give him a shot because of his last name. But
Right.
Maybe also because of who he was related to, he had more access to acting and like having that exposure. Because like, say if you and I tried to tell our parents out here in rural Wyoming and said, I want to be an actor and I want to take it seriously. One, would they have taken it that seriously? Would they have provided those opportunities for us? And two, I mean, could they have even out here? It's not like there's acting. Like, I'm in my little school growing up, there was no acting classes. There, once in a while, some group would put on a show or something like that, and like a Christmas acting theater show, whatever, and that's it. So, maybe in Charlie Sheen's case, his dad just took that more seriously, knowing it could be a career and he could be good at it, and just give him access to those things.
Yeah, and he probably did. He probably got him an acting coach or was his acting coach. Who knows? It would actually be interesting to find out.
Right.
But some people are born talented as well, whether you could be trained it or not. Like who trained Elon Musk to think so far out of the box?
You can't.
Sometimes you can't teach that kind of stuff.
No, but I think that's part of like, especially when we talked about earlier, people's passions. I think that's a big part of it, though, is that a lot of people aren't really getting, maybe they just don't spend, and this might be how you grew up, how you were as a kid or whatever, but not having spent enough time thinking about what are you good at? Like what's even on the plate for you? Because like, I can't go probably be a mechanic. I don't think it's even I don't think I have it. I don't have the spark. I don't have the interest. I wouldn't be any good at it. I wouldn't be rising up the ranks in it because you just can't train that passion, or you can't train some people a level of intelligence. You can't train that. I think some people just are that way. So I think in finding your passion, a lot of it is you have to take the time to find out who are you, like,
right. What
are you good at? There's a lot of things I thought I was good at or really smart at. And now I realize I'm just a kind of a dumb guy who can retain some facts for a certain amount of time, but I get along with people. I've known that one sticks. I talk, and I like to talk, and I like talking to people. That one sticks. So I'm
you definitely do like to talk.
Yeah. I started a whole podcast based off the idea that people want to hear me talk. So
yes, obviously, yeah. Point proven right there. Anybody listening, if you had any doubts, he is conceited. No.
Yeah, I do think there is something to be said about a conversation and opening up good channels of communication, exchanging ideas. That's all good. But I would be remiss if I said that this didn't have anything to do with a little bit of narcissism or a little bit of vanity.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding.
I think a lot of this stuff is that, though, to some extent, you can't lie and say it's not.
No. Well, because even some of the things that I do at work, it's like it is so good and I take so much pride in it that I want to just stamp my name on it so that whoever I give it to knows that I made it. Dustyn, I made that. Then you put
it out on the internet. This is custom Dustyn Kamensky.
Yeah. Well, because it's not like it's because that's what I mean about machinists being in the background. These guys will just pick up their stuff and just be like, "Oh, thanks." And if it works, it works, but they don't come and meet me and they're like, "Oh, you made this, huh?" They don't do that. Much like you, if you would have created this podcast so that people may listen to, your ideas and your conversations with others and their ideas, but you went under a false name, or you know what I mean? Like, would that, okay, I guess that's a question. Would, in that instance, if you would have went under Jane Doe the Third, is that a level? Is that a level of which you do not just take pride in your work, or is that just you don't want any random average Joe to know who you are and what you're about?
That's a question, isn't it? Huh? Yeah. No, I hadn't thought of. No, I guess to me that was never a question because. That's, I guess, where the vanity comes in. I was like, no, it's me. I'm talking. I get the credit. It's not I guess that's puts me in the corner right there where it's like, Tanner, you okay? You can have good, I'm sure you think the conversations, everything I said before. I do stand by that. And I think in today's day and age, a lot of good conversations is probably what we need instead of posting shit on social media, just getting people riled up. But at the same time, it's true. I wasn't going to just go put it under some name and have some sort of I can never say this word. anonymity, where I'm just anonymous to the world, and I'm just a person, and there's some guys out there making this beautiful content everyone wants to hear. No,
but then at the same time, you'd walk around and you'd be like, "Hey, did you hear that one guy's podcast?" And they'd be like, "No."
I'd still be doing that.
Yeah, you're promoting yourself without them knowing it. You know.
Ooh, damn it, Dustyn. That's a good idea.
Did you hear that guy's podcast? Holy cow, he talked about some amazing stuff last night.
I'd be posting all over. Dude, you guys got to hear this guy's podcast. It's great. You got to listen to it.
Posting it on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
People would catch on. They'd be like, Tanner is weirdly obsessed with
like
this guy.
I think he wants this guy's schnutz or something. But
yeah. Cops show up. We need to have a talk.
Yeah.
We're
Did you kidnap this man? He hasn't posted a video in some time now. And you're just wasted like, no, it's me. I'm that man. And they're like, you're going downtown.
Spend 3 days in the police precinct trying to explain it. At the end of it, they're just going to be like, all right, he can go. But for the record, son, you're fucking weird.
Yeah, you're a weird son of a bitch. And I just wanted you to know that. but I mean, you know, that's a funny, you know, I mean, hell, that could be a skit in itself right there too, you know?
Yeah, see, that's what we talked about before, that comedy talk, that, you know, because like we've talked about it before. We've thrown ideas back and forth, exchanged shit. And yeah, it turns out we both at some point in the day, sometimes, you know, maybe it's just an observation or, you know, and then it springs a thought or whatever. But then all of a sudden you think, that's fucking funny. Or you just think, that is weird. And then you like maybe some weird scenario plays in your head. You kind of play something funny out. I don't know. Maybe that's where that actor thing comes in. But
well, at least once a week, something happens to me or one of my coworkers that I'm like, oh. And then my brain starts going off on these little rabbit trails of, oh, what about this and this and this? And then you just throw something together in your head and you're like, damn, that would be funny to see. Like I'd want to see that, you know?
Yeah. And you imagine it in your head.
Right.
Like,
and I don't know if
perfect.
And I don't know if everybody thinks like that with certain instances and scenarios that happens either in their life or a friend or family members. But like you and me do, and we both know that. Like we'll have an experience, and then instantly we're just like, oh, and we're connecting pieces that may not even go together. But you know, we're thinking about things in that way, and you know, the only difference, even given if the fact that most people do at some point in a let's say a month's time have a moment like that where they're like, oh, that'd be a good sketch, that'd be funny, that would make people laugh. Even if they did have that train of thought, much like you and me, are they actually creating that sketch? Sure, it might be funny, but are you putting it out for the world to see and for the world to laugh? Because I know I have a bunch of really good ideas and stuff like that, and I've jotted down notes about certain sketches and ideas. It doesn't mean that I necessarily go out and, you know, make these sketches come to life. Yeah.
And even if you did it, a big part of it is that's part of the grind though, is also would it probably, you know, it would not at all be what you imagined in your head when you played it out. It would be,
that's the tricky part.
That would take work, you know, and I think there is a big discussion on quality, you know, like a lot of people say, I'm going to wait to do something until I have better equipment to make it quality, but
you got to start somewhere.
And the content's got to be good, because even if you have the good quality and you just like, you're like, hey, I've spent 10 years. I got this amazing, you know, movie quality camera. I've got the best equipment to edit it and all
thousands of dollars.
Yeah, everything's perfect. But once you hit that record button, you'll still be stuck in the same position of hitting that record button. That stigma, like you're like, oh shit, I'm being recorded. I never practiced with this, and the content would suck. So,
right, and then you'd still go unappreciated, even though you got thousands and thousands of dollars of equipment and backdrops and props and you know,
good quality shit.
Yeah, you got everything necessary to make a good quality something or other. But that doesn't mean that you're going to go do it. And I mean, and you know what? You got to tip your hat to the people that try. You know, you really do. Oh, yeah. Even if you watch a video and you're like, oh, that was cringy. You know what? That's what this person, this guy, woman wants to do. And you know, you have to tip your hat to them. To the people that get on there and comment on stuff and say that, oh, like, you know, they try to put people down. in my head, those people are just jealous because they're not the ones doing it. They don't have the respect necessary to understand the amount of work and time and possibly money that went into creating something such as that you may not have liked or appreciated. And that's what's sad.
Yeah, it's easy to be the critic.
They don't see the pride in it. It's easy to sit back and look at somebody fail. Mm-hmm. How would you like to get up on stage and you bomb a comedy show?
Oh fuck!
Or how would
embarrassing.
Or how would you like to be sitting in the crowd while somebody else bombed it?
Oh, that'd be cringy. You'd be like, oh fuck.
You'd leave, not because you're mad at the show. At least I wouldn't. I wouldn't leave because I'm mad at the show. Because I feel for that guy. Because I do wish that it was me on stage. And sadly enough, and I want to know your thoughts on this. If you were in the crowd watching somebody bomb and you were embarrassed for them, would you still wish that was you on stage? Even if they were bombing. But at least then you could say that, because what comedian have you ever seen a video about that didn't say something about them just horribly bombing a show, getting booed off stage? Eminem used to get booed off stage. You know what I mean?
That's a weird balance because it's almost like, should you give it up when you're getting booed? Like if you're getting booed, there's a huge part of you that's like, because here's the awful truth about that. You shouldn't quit, but there's a truth to the matter of you might not be good at it. Mm-hmm. Maybe you're not good at it. So, but it's kind of hard for you to decide, am I good at it? And that's like a confidence thing. Do you know you're good at it? Do you know you could, do you feel like, but I think what the answer to that is, it almost doesn't matter, because if you enjoy the pursuit, you enjoy the chase, then I guess you should just pursue it anyways. So I guess
getting booed off stage, it'll open your eyes to the self conversation of, do I want this bad enough to possibly get booed off stage again? And that's where it separates the sheep from goats. Chris D'Elia, Tom Segura, Bert Kreischer,
Bill Burr.
They were all booed off stage. Joe Rogan.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
They were
all
booed off stage at some point in their life. Eminem, Marshall Mathers, Slim Shady. He was booed off stage apparently countless times. And look at him.
But I think for me, it's a chase. I think I want to say this, and my dream is to put it to the test. But my thoughts on the matter are that, I think I would want it enough. So I think to answer your question there, I think I would get up on the stage for the guy, because fuck, it's hard to watch people like fail like that. It's hard, and you're almost like, and I want that experience enough that I'm like, yeah, I'll take that bullet for you, man. It is gonna hurt and it sucks. I'll probably spend the next week like, oh fuck,
crying in the corner. I wouldn't like that situation. I'm pretty hard at criticism in most regards. Like, I don't cook for people. If I'm not, if it's a bunch of random people, it's not my family, it's not people that I love and trust, I'm not going to cook for them, because I don't want them to hate what I cooked. And I do take pride in cooking. You may know that. Much like your sisters. They love to cook. They learned from your mother. Your mother was a fantastic cook. And so like that's some of my biggest fears of cooking, is just a group of people, of which maybe strangers, is that they just don't like my cooking. And and much like comedy, if you spent time that just devoted time, blood, sweat, and tears into your comedy routine, and let's say your jokes were funny, but you didn't give the punchline properly, and
you didn't deliver it right.
You didn't deliver it right. People are going to have some bad words for you about that. However, you do have to take criticism to a certain point. I'm afraid, because obviously I'd get up on stage with you, and I'd get booed off stage with you, because I do want to do that. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
The hard part for me is, will I get back on stage to possibly just get booed off again?
Exactly. I don't know. Like,
I want to say that the answer would be yes.
I'd like to give it a try, though. That's why, I'd love for the chance. But
Me too.
so here's the thing. I have to piss like a racehorse.
Me too. I saw you bouncing around.
No, I know. I saw it, and I saw myself in the window there, and I was like, well, that's a guy that has to piss. Or either that, or, it's, I don't know.
Or he's jacking off under the counter right now.
Yeah, I'm like, you just see it.
Yeah,
Oh.
so I want to.
So you were saying about your dreams.
Don't talk to me.
Don't touch it. Don't touch it.
Oh, don't touch me. Yeah, yeah. What was that? Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Oh, that was a haunted house. Do you remember Haunted House with the Wayans brother?
No, it's ringing a bell.
Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Yeah.
Maybe that's where it comes from, and I just don't admit.
That was on Haunted House. Yeah. Oh, don't touch me. Don't. And he's like, he's shaking like Michael J. Fox, But,
oh shit.
Oh no.
Oh, too soon.
Oh boy. Too soon. 30 years too soon.
Yeah. We just got okay with Kennedy jokes, Dustyn, for fuck's sakes.
Well, fuck, I don't know what you want me to say.
I don't know what the rules were very unclear.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, there's not a rule book for shit like this.
So, do you want to continue?
You bet your sweet little pussy I do.
We getting back to it?
Lead thy way.
All right. Well, then we had a good little break, but as far as in lieu of our creating content discussion, I feel like when I grew up, I watched a bunch of stuff on YouTube, Wait, this is even before I was ever watching comedy specials, and even before I'd even really thought of specifically stand-up comedy or anything like that. Just watching, like you already mentioned it, like Whitest Kids You Know. I used to watch Shane Dawson back when he was doing sketches and skits. Yeah, back in those days.
Before he fell off the fucking wagon.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's finding himself. I'm sure it's a big old journey. I mean, all life is. But you watch. That's what I would always watch. So, I don't know if it's the same for you. Yeah. Did you ever watch that stuff and think about doing it? And
yeah.
And on top of that, I mean, what did you think about doing? Was it just the skits and all that? Did you have anything else you wanted to put on YouTube? Especially back in the early days.
It was all just comedy-based skits. I've never really wanted to do like a whole bunch more than that,
Right.
That's where my mind is comedy. And I don't know, I wouldn't necessarily. Well, what else would you put on YouTube comedy-based? Like a stand-up? Possibly.
I think there was always a part of me that thought, like, especially growing up, none of my sisters were this way, but I was always really into politics, and I always thought, like, and there's some people I watch to this day that, they do like political commentary or they talk about stuff. So there's that. You could talk about politics, but there's a lot of things that I kind of realized.
Oh yeah, if I wasn't gonna do comedy sketches, I'd probably do like a commentary on MMA, UFC fights. Basically the only thing I keep up with much anymore. Politics, I've dropped that off the fucking wagon a long time ago. There's no sense in me trying to pursue that. I'm not that highly interested.
Right. And I think that's the other thing for me. So that's maybe one of my side things I do. But I think a lot of it also became my thought process, and that was comedy for me is the only thing that I've still thought I could do and bring something to the table. I feel like if I tried doing
something
anything
new.
else, if I feel like I did political commentary, weirdly in that case, I would think, what can I bring to this that isn't already being brought? I'm sure there's lots of people already that do that, but I don't know a lot of people that do comedy skits. I mean, I'm sure there's way more out there
Not
than
anymore.
I know, but
not much anymore that I have personally witnessed within the last couple of years. There's not very much new content. It seems like the time for that has come and gone. Everything's going to podcast, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe that does open the market on something else now. It's like everything comes and goes in waves.
But that's always what I've thought about, and I've been on that, like, kind of with thinking about that, like pressing my head against the box, wondering, like, so how do I, like, what is it that I can do that is revolutionary? And I'm sure a lot of people have thought that, but it's like, what can I do with the times that are changing? What's going on, and where do I think it's going to go? And I think it's probably just a lucky streak you hit. You just happen to hit a gold mine at the right place, the right time. But you know, I've always thought, what can I do? I got nothing yet, but
no, you and me both, buddy.
Well, especially since like Vine died, I feel like that was another good thing where people would do skits. Now it's TikTok, and that's just a whole.
That's just disgusting to me, to be honest. My cousin Eric will try to send me stuff like that on TikTok, and oh man, I just do not enjoy it one teeny tiny bit.
There's a few people that can do some good comedy on there, but the majority of it is weird, like teenage girls lip syncing shit.
Yeah, girls like trying to act seductive or something. And you know, the most messed up part about it is that these 16-year-old girls are trying to dress up like they're 22 and act like they're 22. And you know, let's just say that me and my sister weren't doing that kind of thing when we were 16. You know what I mean? The times are changing, I understand, but
right.
You know, and those chicks are probably richer than I am just from lip syncing something and maybe dancing to it.
Right. Well, maybe they just, you know, especially at that age, like, fuck, we've just talked about it. We didn't have our passions then. We had at least we didn't have the, you know, we it's not like it, where we're at today, at least with the things that we do like doing, we can come home and sit down and work on it. But
right.
I mean, these guys don't even know at all what they want to do. So yeah, I'm sure it's all like an emotional stuff. They want to feel like they have something going on, but mostly, you know, attention. And
well, you got to also think about it in the sense that, like I just said, things come and go in waves. Because, you know, Vine used to be the biggest thing on the street. You don't see Vines anymore.
No, their fucking company shut down and all that stuff. They're not at all a thing. But I feel like a lot of internet comedy died with that. There's, like I said, there's some people on TikTok that do it, but otherwise it's not that. And even the ones that are trying to be funny on there, I'm like, maybe I hope I'm not already becoming that old grouchy old man, but I'm like, I don't get it.
No, I don't either. There's a couple of ones that I watched that were actually like, okay, that was pretty funny.
I see what you're doing. Yeah.
But the majority of them, I'm just like, man, you need to get a fucking job. Like, you look bored out of your mind.
You have way too much time on your hands.
Basically, yeah.
Because even I, as a teenager, I still, like, I didn't really go out a lot as a teenager. I still went home and I don't know, I used to think my thing was going to be writing, so I'd write a lot, or I'd sit and try to learn about the things I was interested in. I don't know. I never really spent a lot of time sitting there trying to, like, put stuff on social media and stuff. I always thought about the whole YouTube thing or creating comedy and skits and all that, but I didn't do anything with it, but I always thought about stuff, and sometimes I'd write shit down. But I guess to me, I had more stuff to do with my day than just getting up wondering how I can post something that a bunch of people want to look at, especially a bunch of guys. I'm going to use my body to do it.
Right. No, yeah, I'm not going to dress all slutty and post me lip syncing to NSYNC, you know. But, you know what I was doing when I was like 15, 16 with like these kids, these, you know, girls, guys, whatever they're doing, is I was out cutting down trees and mowing the yard. You know what I mean?
You were doing that, yeah, physical stuff. Yeah.
You know, trees needed cut down. They were dead, or grass needs mowed, or, you know, feed the freaking the neighbor's cows and horses and goats, or what, you know. Of course, you're not going to have that issue in, you know, downtown Denver. You know, your neighbors aren't going to be like, hey, I'm going out of town for a couple of weeks. Would you mind feeding my horses?
You're like, whoa, what the fuck? You got horses?
Yeah, you have horses? What? Yeah. Oh, don't worry. They're just little figurines. And you're like, so they don't eat? You know, you're a fucking psychopath. And I'd like it if that person. Yeah, I'd like it if you didn't come back.
Yeah. Lose my number.
Yeah, please. Right. Yeah, don't knock on my door again. I'll be moved before you get back.
So for you, then, I guess the question is, do you think from here on out, because obviously for you, you're always going to be machining. You're not losing that anytime soon. But, do you think maybe in the future you'd like to start do it, like podcasting here? I mean, you just got yourself a beautiful little mic, and I promise it works on other things that aren't just fucking Zoom. So, it's out there. There's other things definitely we could try and do better.
You think I could be like the next Shania Twain?
Well, hold up. Well, you could. Let's back it up a bit.
But you just said.
Yeah, right. No. You could be something. You got to put it in that grind, boy. We just talked about that.
We did.
So
I know. You're gonna be my greatest critic.
No, I'm gonna be. No way, man. I'm gonna try to prop you up. My biggest fear, like, what happens if I like put my whole life's work into it, and one day down the road, 10 years from now, you're like, well, I'd like to give it a try, and all of a sudden you just blow up. I'd be like, God damn it.
I'll take you with me, buddy.
He's so talented and handsome. Of course, it makes sense.
You and me can sing some awesome Hall & Oates and the Bee Gees together. So if all else fails, we'll just become the next Bee Gees artists
of our time.
Yeah.
The Bee Gees of 2030.
I'll be the bass in the background because obviously I can't hit that high note like you, but
it's true. We got our little notes there, but I got the chest hair for the medallion in the 70s outfit.
Yes, so. And I'm gonna have to be Andy Gibb. Or no, that was Andy Gibb. That was always flashing the chest hair.
That was Andy Gibb did it too, but he was like their brother, but not a part of the Bee Gees. It was Barry that was the head of the Bee Gees, who had the big giant mane of hair.
Yeah.
And the chest hair, the glowing 70s chest hair. Yeah. I don't have the glowing mane.
Andy Gibb was part of the Bee Gees. It was the three brothers.
No, that was Andy. It was who was it? Was Barry was the head of it, and then there was Andy, and then there was I'm sorry, other BG, for not knowing your name.
I'm sorry. I know one of them died of lung cancer, I believe.
I think
that was Andy.
No, I think
maybe
Andy.
Not.
I think. Yeah, we're like.
You know what? We're not the BG historians, fellas. So don't judge us don't critique us too hard on this. All right.
All right. Well,
somebody out there that's going to be listening to this, and they're going to be like, no.
Well, for the record, let's just clear it up. I pulled it up.
All right.
The Bee Gees was Barry, Robin, and Maurice. And
really?
Andy was also their brother, but he had a solo career. He was Andy fucking Gibb. He was not the Bee Gees. He was his own Gibb.
Love I have to bring.
Damn, Dustyn, sing it.
No. Yeah. Yeah, no, I won't get down right now. But no, that's interesting because they all look similar to me. They all look so similar to me, and I believe one of them did die of cancer or something like that. One of them, passed away pretty. I wouldn't say necessarily prematurely. I mean, I think he was like 50 years old or something. But
yeah, I think it might have been Maurice or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah. See, but well, and here I mentioned something, and maybe this will reminisce with you a little bit, or not reminisce. Maybe this will. I mentioned something during one of my interviews about with what I'm doing right now, trying to pursue stuff. I don't know if I'll ever make it. There's no guarantee, right? But I would, and this is what I would almost tell to almost anyone else, is that. But the memories and the experience that I'm accumulating by doing it, and all the conversations I've had, and the ups and downs, the roller coaster of emotions, it's worth it. Because at the end of the day, I'd rather it's failed than, or maybe not even failed, but maybe never made it to where one might dream they could achieve, than to have done nothing.
Right. Well, because then you never would know what could have been. And that's what all the comedians say. They say, well, good, bad, or indifferent, give it a try, because you never know. you might be so skeptical of it that you might not give it a try. But if you would have given it a try, you might have just been the next Kevin Hart or the next Bert Kreischer, or you know what I mean. So, and you know, much like podcasting, you might just be the next Joe Rogan. You know, you might not sign a $100 million deal with Spotify, but we'll call him Trader Joe.
Right.
But you know, because I ain't paying for Spotify, so I guess sayonara Joe Rogan. But
it depends. Yeah, we'll see what it looks like. But
see, I wonder if that's going to have his video recording too. Because when I think of Spotify, I don't think of video.
I think it's still supposed to. Otherwise, I don't think he'd do it. But
yeah, that's I want to see the video.
That's where I'm at. I want to see what it looks like.
I might just do it if it's going to have his video recording, and it's going to be like the normal shit that we're used to. You know, you can't really beat a stoned Joe Rogan. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
There's just something about a stoned Joe Rogan that is so soothing to the soul. You know
why? And why is it that he became the big guy that he is in that? He was a stand-up comedian, and to be fair, there's a lot of comedians that have their own podcasts, like, you know, all of them, and there's a lot of actors that have them too, their own podcasts, but nothing
he just blew.
Yeah. So
but then you got to ask yourself, did he do anything different? I mean, he's been doing this for 10 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I think, maybe only 8. I think maybe the latest video I saw was like 8 years ago. But correct me if I'm wrong. But, you know, he's been doing this for a long time.
I think it depends. Thing. It's just fucking Zoom shit. But it's, and also, I mean, he was fortunate enough, because of his hard work, I'm not taking that away from him, that he was famous enough already as it was. So
right.
It wasn't like he was starting from scratch, you know, or anything like quite like that. But still, you got to give him credit for the fact that despite everyone having a podcast these fucking days, every celebrity's in on it now. He blew up. Like, he's like, I don't know if he's the most listened to podcast, but he's definitely up there. And he's just a guy that he fucking sits there and talks with people
and gets stoned with them.
And I think a lot of it is to some degree that he has access to high level celebrities. Like,
Elon
don't tell
Musk.
me, yeah, if I could have fucking Kevin Hart and Robert Downey Jr. in my apartment right now, I'm sure people would click on it. A lot of people would want to hear it just because of the guest. But
right,
you know, I can't. When you start from scratch.
By the time he had his podcast going, he already had access to the top names in Hollywood. That's the difference. That's the big difference. Plus, his content was just come on here and let's bullshit.
Yeah,
well, I feel like he doesn't follow much of a script at all.
No, he doesn't. And here's something I've learned with like notes and all that and like scripting. Because I had one show before this, I've mentioned this a few times, that yeah, it was very scripted. It was very, and I didn't like that. And that's why I wanted to veer away from it. I was like, I don't want to run off a script. I don't want to sit there. That's not me. That's not what I'm doing this for.
It's just a pure interview.
Yeah, but I wanted to just talk. And that's where, but here's the thing. And this is where the struggle that I think he lacks a little bit. Which, again, you can't really blame the guy for it. He'd already worked very hard to get up to the level of prominence. But there's something in getting people on your podcast. Like the pursuit. And trying. And I think this is where a lot of podcasters are. Most podcasts you look at, it's somebody, because I've been in pursuing this, checking out a lot of low-level podcasts, like people, smaller podcasts and all that. And most of it is just people that sit down with their micro. It's just them, it's just them. And the ones that succeed a little better are the ones that are actually delivering content people want. But at the same time, it's really fucking difficult to be, it turns out, something very difficult to try to get people to be on your show and be, I'm not trying to beat myself up or bash myself or anything, but nobody, as far as status goes, it's tricky to have people on here just to have a conversation. Because if Joe Rogan invited you to come do his podcast, Oh, dude, you'd probably move work around to go do that. That's it. That's an opportunity right there. But
Oh, I'd say hell no. I wouldn't go.
you wouldn't go?
He'd get me so stoned that I would look like a fucking idiot in front
Oh,
of
dude.
millions of people. And
Especially
trust me when I say that I would not turn down Joe Rogan if he handed me a joint.
Oh no. I haven't smoked. I don't smoke as much anymore at all like I ever used to. If I'd
No,
fucking
me
eat it,
either.
he'd be like, "Hey, brother, do you want this joint?"
Yeah, I get drug
Oh,
tested at
fuck.
work. I will throw away my career if Joe Rogan hands me a joint. My job would go down the tubes right
Because
then.
you're right. You can't fucking tell him no.
You can't tell Joe Rogan no. You know what I mean? And then that's. I'm not saying that necessarily that's what Joe Rogan is trying to go for with his podcast. Because let's be honest, when he saw, I used to think that he was doing it because he wanted to do it and he wanted to get points across. And then somebody flashed $100 million in his face, and it kind of made him seem like he's in it for the money. It kind of changed. It kind of changed my mind about it, my opinion, I suppose.
I'm waiting to see how it turns out because there could be an element of, I don't know. I'm just saying there is the possibility that with as weird as YouTube's gotten about like monetizing people, demonetizing people for going against like. There was during the pandemic, if you said stuff that they deemed was against what the CDC was saying or the World Health Organization was saying, if you said anything contrary to that, if you were a big content provider, they might fucking demonetize your videos and stuff like that. So I think there might be an element of he wanted to get away from that, that level of scrutiny. That way, maybe on his shows, maybe they get better. Maybe if they're the same, then you can still watch it and you can stuff but they can play whatever they want. There's a lot they won't get pulled or they won't get maybe they'll have more freedom. Yeah, and they can put up whatever they want up and they won't get pulled.
Yeah.
So
what really irritates me though, and maybe this is the wrong conversation to have. People laying into Elon Musk for smoking weed with Joe Rogan. This goes back to this exactly. Why are people so worried about that? And then like I just said, why would you I'm sure, some people just don't want to do it. All rights to them. Don't preach at me though. Don't preach to me about how Elon Musk is a bad person and I won't support him because he did that with Joe Rogan. You're kidding me.
I think a lot of it was how the media spun that kind of stuff. And we see it even more so. It's getting worse and worse where the media will spin something a certain way. And I think in that context, they spun it in the, especially where Elon Musk is at, those sorts of people. He does something, say he tweets something or he does something. All of a sudden, like investors start pulling their money. People start pulling their money. His stock goes down because people are like, "Oh, I don't want to be," and it's not because they're pulling it because of like, "Oh, he smoked weed or he tweeted that." These guys are businessmen. They don't give a shit. What they're weirded out about, they're weirded out about how the public will handle it. And if the public stops buying their stuff or starts trying to protest against them and boycott them, then they're going to pull their money out and go invest it somewhere else because they don't want to be a part of that backlash and lose money.
Right, and I guess you can't blame them for that. It's not necessarily that they are being judgmental, but that we can go on and on and on for days about how the media twists stories. But that was one of them that just blew my mind. It was that people were all of a sudden just like, I will never buy a Tesla. And don't get me wrong, I'm not for or against him. I think that he has a mind that most people are jealous of.
He's on another level.
I'm jealous of the fact that this man, and that's all he is a man, made something from nothing because he had an idea.
Just because his brain works a certain way.
His brain just connected those dots that 99% of people's brains just wouldn't have.
They'd shut off. Yeah, they're not even capable of reaching that level. But I don't know. That is an interesting idea. That what do you do with your brain? And also, I mean, I think I'm not for sure on this, so I won't don't hold it to me. But I think Elon Musk was also born rich. So I think he was not only, luckily he was intelligent, but also
he had
the
the financial
resources.
backing
Mm-hmm.
to do something, to go crazy. Because don't get me wrong, I've thought of ideas and I've, tried to think about how to create it. The only thing is that I don't have access to the $1 million worth of tools and machines necessary to make something, let alone mass produce it. And so if he wasn't born with a silver spoon in his mouth, even more power to him.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow that's different.
But at the same time, I think in his context, it's okay because he's doing environmental work. He's trying to make electric cars. I mean, he's more recently-ish, his company SpaceX just sent 2 people, the first time that a company, somebody that wasn't a government-run, NASA, an organization,
an independent company.
Yeah, an independent company just sent 2 people to the International Space Station. So,
crazy.
And he wants to go colonize Mars and all this other stuff. So I'm like, dude, at least he's doing something. There's a lot of rich, people that aren't. There's a lot of celebrities and other people who sit on their money and they spout things out. They give their opinion, but they're not creating. They're not trying to. They think their words and opinions are good enough, but they're not actually doing something. So, and I guess I don't know how could you hate Elon for doing that?
Right.
If you hate him for politics, then you're wrong.
Right, exactly. You can't bring politics into a conversation such as that. You got to think about the fact of people actually trying to do something with the world and society how it is. You could say that with his whole invention, was he trying to make millions and millions of dollars when he created his electric cars?
Mm-hmm.
Or was he trying to benefit the planet, which is a discussion of itself? Because technically, speaking, it doesn't really do anything for the environment, because there's still machines. There's still, making these cars. In my mind, being a machinist, it doesn't, it doesn't do anything for the planet necessarily, but it is cheaper in the long run to buy a Tesla, like even the Cybertruck. It is cheaper in the long run to buy a Cybertruck than it is a brand new F-150, given the maintenance and, gas and all that sorts of stuff. Because trust me, you're still paying for electricity, but which is another conversation of itself. Because if you're trying to help the planet, well, what powers that electric car?
I think it's one
nuclear power plant or a coal power plant.
I think it's just a cog in the machine. Like it's one of the things along the line, you're right, because like what powers something, if say for example something is powered on electricity, if coal is powering that or oil is powering that electricity, then you're not quite unquote green yet. But I think maybe the idea is that if there's a demand for that more and people start looking at some of that where electricity comes from, then maybe without delving too much into it, maybe there's a discussion on how we do that. Maybe we evolve as a society, we do things different, but you don't know, I guess. But you're doing things different. And as far as like say Elon Musk's thing, I still think it's good that it's out there, and I think that what he's done, maybe it's not, he didn't exactly save the planet outright or anything like that, but maybe it's a step, maybe it helps,
and it probably is forward. It probably really is.
It's just one thing. It all takes some steps to fix a problem. You don't generally fix things overnight, especially something as complex as that. But I did something we this literally, man, this whole like where we're at now, this all started with us talking about the fucking Bee Gees.
No, I know.
Spiral out of control. Which is great.
Well, excuse the shit out of me for talking my your ear off.
Yeah. No, absolutely. There's a lot of people that say, well, I don't know if I want to do your I talk a lot and I have a lot of opinions. I'm like, that's literally what I do here.
Yeah, let me get Dustyn on. Yeah.
Well, what do you want to have someone on that doesn't want to say anything or has nothing to say? Like, would you just pull someone on here and just, they got nothing to say? It's like, well, literally all of this is talking, so I need you to say something. I'm not opposed to someone to talking,
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all I got to say about that.
I was like, oh shit! Now he's gonna.
I'll just give you blunt answers from now on, buddy.
Yeah, like just to spite me, he's just gonna. Oh, cool.
Yeah, no, that's something to think about.
God damn it, Dustin. No, all it was I thought about something we had mentioned earlier, and that was as far as our comedy talks going. I was gonna get a little like personal as far as oh yeah, what?
Yeah,
do you
no,
think
never mind. I'm not going to say it. I talked myself out of it. I said it in my head. Normally, I think on the spot, but I thought about that one and I opted out of it.
God bless you.
Thank God. I just saved you some views.
Oh, some of the stuff that's come out of our mouths already. I don't think. I mean, I don't know what was in your head, but I don't want to I'm not. You had a filter. Your filter showed up. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but
it was probably for the better. Let's just say that.
All right. Well, I saw the cogs turning there for a second, so I saw the filter come into place. However, my thought was just that what makes us, as far as the comedy goes, what do you think it is about us, whether how we were raised, who we are, where we come from? What is it? And I'm thinking it's the same with you. We're so interested in comedy and all that, but we probably spent a lot of our time in our childhoods being class clowns, being striving for that almost actively and consciously.
Yeah, let's just say I was in the detention center quite a bit for some of the stuff that I'd done, and some of it was bad. This
joke had gone too far.
Well, not even necessarily that. It was almost bad humor. So there was this. What was it? It was sophomore year. We had a substitute teacher came in for our biology class. And she did not want anything to do with my class clown behavior. So she was being, she was treating me like she, probably should have, to be honest with you. I don't necessarily blame the chick, and I feel horrible for what I had done, but, she tried to put me in my place, as far as being the class clown. She called me out in front of the whole class. And then she said that she was going to call the principal down. And so she went out into the hall to talk to the principal about my behavior. I got up, I grabbed a dead moth out of the windowsill, and I put it in her coffee.
Oh, fuck, Dustin.
And she came in, took a sip of it, told me to go to the principal's office. And some of the brown nosers of the class, mostly the girls are usually the brown nosers. It was like, no, don't drink that. Like trying to tell her not to drink that. I watched her take a sip of that, grab my books, left class with a shit-eating grin on my face. I won that one. Don't try to call the principal on me, bitch. I'll fucking put a moth in your coffee.
Yeah,
watch you drink it.
You're sick. You're sick.
And she did, yeah.
Oh, that's good though.
Yeah. So
it's a good story.
I wouldn't know if that's class clownage or like potentially a future serial killer action. I don't know.
That kid's gonna bring a gun to school. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I didn't. Not to school.
Not to school.
But that was one of my worst moments, to be honest with you, because if I was that teacher, trust me, I would have went to jail that day for beating a kid's ass.
Leapt over the desk. You motherfucker.
Yeah, thank God she didn't know that there was a moth in there until I was already in the principal's office. All right, if she even found out, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I never knew the outcome of that.
I don't know the part of that end of the story that way, but oh man.
In my head, I won that battle.
Oh, damn it, Dustin. That is fucking hilarious. That is terrible. Terrible.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
It's pretty bad. It really is. I don't pride myself with that one necessarily, although it is funny.
It's funny.
And that was the whole point of it, was that to me, it was funny. It was horrible, but it was funny. It was funny on the extent of somebody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was funny at the expense of somebody else's misery.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, but I'm sure you still spent as much time, like say there's people saying stuff, there's a group of people talking, or there's people talking in class. There's probably some part of your brain that was thinking like, saying something, and I guess it's a weird thing where almost your brain doesn't really, I don't know, you're not thinking, it's not like this, someone might think of it as like it's this active thought of, oh, I want to be funny. It's almost more on the line of like an instinct of, you just want to throw like whatever it is you say, you're probably not going to throw your like real opinion out. Maybe like someone's like trying to talk about politics, or they're trying to talk about like they're being serious, or maybe they're just telling some story, and there's a part of you that just wants to throw something out that's just fucking funny.
Like, are you trying to be heard, or are you trying to be funny? Are you trying to make people laugh, or are you just trying to be heard? Well, right? So that becomes like the whole thing of a class clown. And what's sad is that my mother told me this because of how much trouble I was getting in for trying to be a class clown. Was like, Dustyn, are you trying to be funny, or are you trying to fit in?
Oh, well.
You know what I mean?
There's probably an element of that one to fit in.
Because I was kind of always on the lesser end of the social spectrum of high school.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But people knew me for being funny. And then towards the latter part of high school, it got to the point where it was always at somebody's expense. Mm-hmm. And that needed to be reeled in. There was a couple of people that I just basically bullied to get laughs out of other people. So, and I've went back and I've bandaged those old wounds with those people. I have said that I was sorry, and stuff like that. But there is a huge difference that I learned from, at the time I didn't know it. It wasn't intentional to get laughs from other people at someone's expense. But looking back on it, I knew that that's exactly what I was doing. And so I went back and I put bandages on those wounds, and I said I was sorry, and I hope you could forgive me. Let me buy you a beer sometime, and
that's all I can give.
And that's all I can give. Like, all I can do now is say that I'm like really genuinely sorry. I was 17 years old, 16, 17 years old. I'm sorry, I didn't do that shit senior year. I wasn't trying to fit in anymore. I was trying to graduate. You know what I mean?
Right. Just trying to survive.
I was trying to survive at, senior year. So the times had changed. I wasn't trying to go to the detention center, principal's office, whatever. I wasn't trying to do that kind of stuff anymore. I was just trying to, because it got so bad that I spent so much time in the principal's office that I wasn't learning anything.
Mm-hmm.
You could send me to lunch detention. I was in lunch detention every single day of my high school career until I switched schools. I didn't work on my schoolwork in there.
No.
I didn't. A Saturday school, in-school suspension, I wasn't learning anything. I was trying to sleep during Saturday school.
Yeah, because you're forced there. You're just there.
I'm just there on my weekend, and so, my academics suffered very much from trying to be that class clown. And I've ruined some friendships along the way. Of course, I wouldn't do that kind of thing anymore because I understand that well, let me ask you this question. Can you make comedy at the expense of someone else's, integrity,
their physical or mental well-being?
Yes.
A little bit. A lot of that comes down to, it depends on, and I will say this, let's just separate school from it for a second. In general, can you? Yes, you can, but I think a lot of that is dependent on who you're directing it towards.
Right.
Like, if you were giving me shit, you can do that, because not only do I have, I've tried to adopt thicker skin, and I know dark comedy. I know what it is to fucking tease each other and harass each other for stuff. So yes, to an extent. I mean, obviously, there's too far. If it's, there's a spectrum of comedy there. Eventually, someone who even says they got thick skin, and you put them up on like a roast or something like that, and you're harassing them. There's a lot of comedy that can come from that. I mean, but they're mentally in a good place. Griffin.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you run up to them and you just like punch them in the face, and you're like, "Ha! See, I did that."
You just got punked. Yeah.
Eventually, there's a thing where if you're the only guy laughing in the room,
there's something wrong with it.
Yeah, there's something wrong with it, especially if you're around other people who do have a good sense of humor, who are pretty open to stuff. But yeah, I think if you're with the right people, you can be pretty raunchy. You can be kind of, to a certain extent, kind of call people out on dumb shit they do or they say. Or maybe if you look at someone, you're like, hey, put that candy bar down, fat ass, and you say something, I don't know. It depends how close you are with people, it depends.
Right.
But in school, that especially at that sensitive time, that's like potentially the worst time to try and almost even at all do any comedy at the expense of somebody else.
Right.
As far as,
but can you make comedy at the expense of someone else while they are also laughing? Like a roast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Is that like an actual real life thing? Because, somebody said that to me today. Or, did something like that to me today. Customer came in and was talking to my boss, and he was like, yeah, I need a piece of shit. Like, because he's just like this, old-timey guy, and he needs to get something back up and going. He was talking about how he needs a piece of shit, piece of metal this big or whatever. And all he said was, I need a piece of shit this big. And my coworker said, that'd be Dustyn. And I was just like, what'd you say?
Yeah. Hey.
And and I laughed, and everybody laughed. So you could say that joke was at my expense. Did I take it personal? No. So then can you actually classify it as it was it was at my expense? If I laughed, is it at my expense?
Well, when you make a joke, because you can make a joke about, it's like there's, types of comedy. There's some where it's observational. It's you observing a thing, and you're like, then you pull into like the Jerry Seinfeld thing, like, what is with these peanuts on these planes and blah, blah, blah. And everyone can relate to that a little bit. It's like everyone can relate to that comedy. And then there's some where it's genuinely the joke is on the other person. It's like if someone said, I drank as much last night. I was drinking like Tanner, and then everyone's like, oh yeah, because it's well.
Oh, Tanner's an alcoholic. Ha ha.
Yeah, if I got the thick skin, I can laugh with it. Then it's a job well done.
Do you laugh at things like that, knowing that it's true, or that it's funny, or I think it's funny because it's true?
It's funny because it's true, and it's. I mean, that is an odd. Yeah,
it is a really weird subject. It's a very touchy subject because, like, my best friend is morbidly obese, and honestly, and he's a very good dude, and I love him to pieces, but he needs to get his weight under control because I don't want to go to his funeral anytime soon, so. And I don't even make those jokes to him anymore because, like, I know that he knows that he needs to lose weight. But he's the one that cracks jokes about himself.
Self-deprecation is a big thing, though. And I think that that's also where you can get some thick skin is you can only be self-deprecating if you're aware of your faults.
Like that whole saying, you're going to understand this one. If I didn't learn to laugh at myself by now, I'd be dead.
Yeah, no, but seriously, I know I get where it's coming from, and it's in the context of a joke, but it's 100% true. Like, if I can't laugh at myself, and I think that's where a lot of stuff comes from. People, maybe that's where some hurt comes from these days, is some people just don't know what it's like to laugh at themselves, and they can laugh about everything else but themselves. And if you say, if you made a joke about, like, your friend, and you said something about, the way he looks, doesn't have any bearing on his heart, but his weight does. Yeah. Because I thought you got me right there because I thought you were all sensitive on me, and I was going to be like, no, he really does have a good heart, And then you're like, but his heart, yeah. Yeah.
No, but see, I don't crack jokes about that kind of stuff, not to him, because I know that it is a touchy subject to him. Not necessarily. I mean, it is touchy because he does know and understand that it is a problem. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's where most jokes do sadly come from, is something that's real that nobody wants to comment on.
No, I know. And honestly, and it was both good and bad. I didn't try to do a lot of it, but there were some instances back when my mom was sick with cancer and something like that, and someone would say, they'd say something, someone would just come out of their mouth, and under normal circumstances, that would be okay. Or, well, with my being, comedy, thinking I have thick skin, sometimes I don't, sometimes I do, but whatever. There were times where, someone would say something and I could all of a sudden say, so I get serious for a second, and I'd go, my mom has cancer. She's dying right now as we speak. And they were like, oh, dude, I'm so sorry. And I was like, look at you, you fucking really pussy. And then they were like, oh, good, dude. I wouldn't want that for your mom. I'm like, no, but she's actually dying of cancer.
No, but
they were like,
really.
So they're on this like roller coaster of emotions, and but the people around who knew were fucking dying because they knew that was they knew what was going on.
Yeah, that was real.
Yeah, but so I guess it just depends on there can be sensitive things about you, but here's my one comment on that. You can be, like say in some people's cases where they, they'll joke about it themselves, but you can't joke about it. I think that's fair because, like, for example, I'm okay with some people making jokes about, like, for example, like my mom that died of cancer. You can make jokes, but I've had some people who tried to make a joke, but it came off mostly just, and it probably matters on your intent. I think what it was is I didn't know what their intent was, but they had that information and they threw a joke on air quotes. And it mostly just came off as just mean. I don't know. And maybe I was just sensitive at the moment. But I mean, because the joke has to be funny. You can't just say something like,
you can't, yeah.
Hey, Tanner, how's your mom doing in hell? Ha! It's like, whoa, which part's funny about? I missed the joke part.
You
never
met my mom. Yeah, like if she was a bitch, you'd probably be like, then
everyone goes, yeah, she was a fucking bitch.
Yeah, if she was an abusive bitch, you'd be like, okay, I kind of see what you're going at with that. Or,
I understand.
But so you're like, but then that's also the subject of discussion too. Is too far. Is there such thing as too far in comedy? Like, because to me, that's not funny because I knew your mom. And, like, if somebody said that to me, trust me, I would knock them the fuck out.
I've had some people
if they were like, haha, your aunt died, haha, they'd be knocked out cold, like, before they finish laughing.
But it's almost like a thing, and I almost, like, had this epiphany when I almost just kind of formulated my opinion on it a little bit. And this was when my littlest sister was at about, like you would say like little kid age, beyond toddler a little bit. And anyways, she would say stuff that was like, she would say something, but it was mean, but she'd go, I'm just kidding. And that's where that my little thought on that coming from is, yeah, but listen, like it could be the crowd, but listen, for sure you're amongst a lot of people that are funny. I mean, you're in a funny family. If you're the only one laughing, there's probably something on your end that's wrong. So there's some people that say something and they're like, I was just making a joke. And it's like, well, it was a poor joke.
Or is it that they said something?
It depends on someone's interpretation is what all this comes down to.
It's like, well, did they say something mean? Well, no, because if somebody was trying to say something mean, they would expect a bad reaction.
This brings me to almost what, like, I don't think it's exactly how he said it and whether it's an exact quote. I know he said stuff along this line, but it was that, a lot of people nowadays say you can't joke anymore. You can't make a joke. Everyone gets offended. He's like, no, you can make a joke, but be aware that there's consequences to it. Like you can make a joke, but some people just aren't going to laugh. And some people aren't going to deal with that, and some people aren't just going to not only not laugh, but they're going to fucking get pissed off, and they're going to lash out against you. So it's just to accept comedy's not for everybody.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, if you can't take, it's like if I make a joke about a paraplegic or something like that, and one of your family members is suffering from such a condition or whatnot,
right?
Like, obviously, I wasn't aiming that joke at you, directly at you.
Right, but it's relative.
But you are going to take that somewhat personal. But you have to have the situation, like the awareness, situational awareness, let's say that, to know that you're in a place that's supposed to be laughing and made of jokes, So I said that joke, and it may be somewhat hurtful to you, but it was not directed at you. I wasn't looking at you because I knew that you were dealing with a similar situation.
Right. I was telling a joke that just so happens to be, kind of in your ball field. Yeah. And I think a lot of it's a journey, because there's some things, as much as and that's why I kept mentioning stuff about, supposedly I have a thick skin. It's because I've got, from what I've noticed, more of a thick skin than, plenty of people I've met.
Oh, yeah.
But I still, even to this day, once in a while, because humans are just fucking weird and interesting, and we're beautiful and terrible all at the same time. You never know what you're going to get with human beings. There always, even to this day, comes a time where someone says something that will test my abilities to not be offended. And there's some parts of me that I haven't, I don't talk about a lot, and there's probably some things that maybe people have talked about me, behind my back, which is fair. Everyone does that to some extent. But, there's probably some things about me that I haven't faced up to, that I haven't accepted, or maybe there's things about me that I haven't made peace with, and I haven't righted the wrong. There's all sorts of instances where maybe there's
subconscious, something or other that may pull a string all of a sudden as well.
So it's kind of a learning thing on some of the things. And maybe as you continue to make mistakes, the ones maybe you feel most guilty about, or the ones you were like, you look back on, you're like, I was wrong. But maybe you don't know how to make right with it. You haven't made peace with it yourself. And so when someone makes a joke about it and they're laughing and everyone's laughing at you, then it's like, it hurts. And then that's when you get pissed off and you lash out. So I don't think anyone has 100% thick skin, because I've heard some comedians talk about, yeah, we all have thick skin. We joke around about stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but I bet there's some things that, even if it was like a, supposedly a well-crafted joke, but it was about a certain topic, about especially the skeletons in your closet.
Right.
You might not laugh as hard as everyone else is around you.
Right.
So
it's pushing certain buttons.
Yeah, so comedy is it's pushing boundaries, and I think, but I did resonate with, even like your moth joke, because I did things a little different. It was just that I was always trying to interject something that was funny, and people were talking, I'd be like, oh, well, blah, 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 soundbite, and it was, oh, that's funny. But I remember there was a
more
time,
physical humor.
See, and it depends, because I did, I sometimes would dabble in that. Most of mine was just verbal stuff, but I remember when I dabbled in what was not the nicest physical humor, and that was I remember one time I was walking with a group of people. There was a bunch of people behind us, and I ran up, and there was this girl that, I'm sorry, I don't want to be a jerk or anything like that, but she was in her own clique. She just wasn't. It's how high school is. She wasn't part of the clique that everyone thought was air quotes again, popular. And anyways, and I, there was a guy who, played on all the sports teams, was popular and all that, said something to me that sparked this idea. And I walked up and I kind of just gave a good swift kick to her rolling backpack it was rolling around behind her. She was pulling with her. And that girl went flying. I swear to God, I didn't kick it very hard, but her and her backpack went flying and crash landed some feet away. and she gets up and she screamed at the guy next to me because I never did that stuff. So I don't think anyone saw that coming. People laughed. People were laughing, but mostly I think because it was like a tension thing because she was screaming at the guy next to me that was popular, like, I hate you.
Oh,
and
no.
I was like, oh shit. And that's what everyone was doing. So it was like a level of comedy that way that like after she ran off and was upset, we were all like, which just shows how fucking terrible teenagers are. We all laughed our asses off.
Mm-hmm.
But that's mean. Like, I
mean.
made a terrible day for somebody. So everyone could have a little bit of a laugh. And I honestly don't even think that many people were as laughing as maybe my brain's telling me. I'm sure someone, if I shared this story with all the people that were present for that, maybe a lot of them would be like, no, I laughed, but maybe I was laughing because people were laughing. Or maybe, no, I wasn't laughing at all. You're mistaken for having thought I was laughing. I was just seeking.
You wanted to believe that it was funny or something, possibly.
But it weighs on my mind to this day. And maybe, and this is an interesting idea I did want to at least throw your way, was maybe she to this day doesn't forgive me, or maybe she's unaware of what's happened. I haven't righted that wrong. I haven't put the bandage on that wound.
Yeah.
I should. There's a level of healing with that. And I can't remember exactly what the context was, but I did read of something recently about the idea that some of the stuff that bothers you or some of the things that you're insecure about, there's some part of your personality that lacks when you don't come to terms and try to correct your mistakes.
Right. Well, and like with that, I will say that some people don't react the way you want them to. There was one guy that I apologized to, and he was nice about it. You know, he was the guy that I said, well, hey, you know, he said, yeah, no problem, dude. Like, all's good. And I said, yeah, I hope so. You know, I'll buy you a beer sometime. He says, okay, I look forward to it, buddy. And then another guy that I tried to apologize to, you know, I said like, hey, he's like, you know, right off the bat, what the fuck do you want? And this is just over Facebook.
All right.
And I was just like, you know, I was an asshole to you in, you know, 8th grade. And, like, I'm really sorry about that. You didn't deserve any of that. I hope you could forgive me, buddy. And he said, don't fucking call me buddy. I'm not your buddy. You know, and he just says, fuck off. Don't talk to me. Stuff like that. And, you know what, you know, and my mom was sitting right there when I did it, you know, and I had some beers in me when I did it as well. And I just told my mom, because she was like, oh, how did he react? And I was like, not well.
It could have gone better.
And, you know, but my mentality, and which is a very, very bad trait I have personally, is that I always jump on the fight wagon. Like, and she was like, oh, what'd he say? And I said it back to her. And she's like, well, you win some, you lose some, buddy. You know, that's all there is to it. You know, you just got to brush it off. And I said, no. So this dude works at Walmart. I said, I'm going to fuck him up.
Ooh, I'm going to go correct his attitude.
I said, I'm going to go give him a little attitude adjustment. And then I'm like, but then I'm just going to be apologizing for the same thing that I'm already trying to apologize for.
Exactly.
Like, this guy is holding so much resentment. And I didn't pick on him for that much. Cody Snow, you can go fuck yourself, by the way.
Oh, fuck.
But, you know, like, I didn't pick on him that bad. It was one day. You know, like, it was one day. And, you know, and sure, I shouldn't have done it, you know. And I really do apologize for that. But, you know, he wasn't too much of a charm himself either. You know, he bullied a lot more people than me.
Well, that was just my thought on that matter, was what I was thinking of when you were explaining that was, you know, I'm sure that there's a line in the sand, right? When eventually you cross that line, everyone is perfectly fine with you not forgiving that person. And I would like to talk about forgiveness a little bit as far as, like, you know, the idea of it. But there is a line in the sand where I think everyone agrees, yeah, if you cross that, no one blames you if you don't forgive them.
Right.
But at the same time, you know, there's some shit where, yeah, you should forgive them, especially nowadays. Like, for me, nothing so bad happened in high school. It was so traumatic and so bad and so devastating that I can't forgive anyone for anything. I can, right. You know, if anyone like texted me or messaged me today and said, I am so sorry for what I did,
You'd be like, what'd you do?
I don't remember what it was, but hey, buddy, you're dwelling on it. Let it go. Like, I release you. It's water under the bridge.
You know, but that was weighing on my brain. And so I wanted to try to right that wrong. But then, you know, I started afterwards, you know, of course, after I calmed down, I did not beat him up at Walmart, of which he worked at the time. I don't know if he's still there or not, but I didn't do anything like that, obviously, because I sat back and I thought about it. And, you know, the honest truth of it is that this man is so irritated at something, whether it be me, whether he hates me that bad or not. You know, he very well could just hate me that much for that one day that I picked on him a little bit. Or he's just always that much of an ass, you know?
It's got to be a character flaw a little bit, because if you, and this is just what I was saying, you know, if you haven't crossed that line in the sand, eventually, if you're still dwelling on something, man, I fucking hate that guy. He ruined my life. It's like, no, buddy, you ruined your life. That guy was an asshole one day, or maybe he did once in a while pick on you in high school, but he didn't ruin your life. You were just weak. At some point, if you haven't crossed that line, it's you.
Right, because there's people that picked on me in high school, and I ended up at a party with them, and I drank with them and had a good time. You know, like years after high school, you know, years after high school. And I saw him again for possibly the first time since then, since high school. And I partied with them and I had a great time with them, you know, and they didn't even tell me sorry. I bet it didn't even cross his head, you know, but in my head, I was like, I forgive you. Let's party. Let's have a good night. And we did. And I partied with him countless times. You know, I'm not friends with him necessarily, but whenever there was a party, the two of us were there. And trust me, we had a good time. And that man never told me sorry. And sure, I still kind of think about it, but I forgave him. You know, there's forgive and forget. You might be able to forgive, but it's really, really hard to forget.
And this is where I was mentioning to you earlier. I wanted to ask you about forgiveness a little bit, because I was listening to a podcast by Duncan Trussell, and I really do recommend people watch his Midnight Gospel on Netflix. However, I was listening to a podcast with him, and he was talking to this guy who identifies as a Satanist, and they were talking about forgiveness and something that they almost came to terms with. And I don't know how I feel about it. I put some thought into it later, but it was about the idea that you can maintain a healthy relationship with someone, but not forgive them for an instance. Like an idea, and this goes back and forth, right? It's a weighing thing, because then I also thought at the same time, well, isn't there always going to be resentment about it? How do you forgive about it? And it's like, well, at the same time, to weigh it back on the other end, even when you say you forgive someone, do you ever forget? And so I guess I don't know about that idea. Can you forgive somebody, or can you not forgive somebody and still maintain a healthy relationship with them, and knowing that almost like, yeah, you fucked up, and maybe I don't forgive you for it, but at the same time, I'm not throwing you to the streets because, you know, none of us are perfect and you made a fucking very poor decision. I don't know. I don't know.
My personal experience with that is that is bullshit. I do not agree with that personally. It's like, okay, so anybody that may have had a very, very toxic relationship, you know, an intimate relationship with somebody, if they cheat on you 5 times during your relationship of 2 years, right? And I've experienced this myself too. You know, I've been cheated on countless times, actually. And you say that you forgive them, and you try to bury the hatchet, and next thing you know, right when they pick up their phone or something, you're looking at their screen. You're trying to make sure that they're not cheating on you again. Or something similar along those lines. It's very hard to maintain a healthy a healthy and trust, you know, oriented relationship with anybody if you have not forgotten what you forgave them for. Because you could say that you forgave somebody all day long.
Mm-hmm.
Did you forgive them, or are you just telling yourself to forget about it?
Yeah.
Because in that instance, you know, like with my parasitic relationships, did I forgive them, or did I just tell myself to forget?
I think
it got bought, you know, it came back up in through the clockworks a couple of times, and that's when I realized I did not forgive them, or else I would not be so paranoid about who are they texting, what are they doing when I'm at work, what are, you know.
Right. No, but I think that's just kind of it a little bit, is because no, you're absolutely right. You don't. But it's almost like you can't make yourself forget as a human being, because
it's impossible.
Once that trust has been broken a little bit, it takes a lot to fucking see difference in that. And you have to understand that there's some people that get mad when they're, you know, hey, you know, like say you went up to a girlfriend that cheated on you, maybe you choose to be with them still, but they need to accept that you're going to be very,
very strict,
walking on fucking broken glass there in the relationship for a long while. And you basically, if you say you cheat or you do something to hurt a relationship, no matter what the relationship is, they have the right to, you have to accept that if you're going to maintain the relationship, you want to keep trying to do it no matter what the relationship is, that they basically have the right to be stepping on glass until you correct it. You can't get mad at them for not doing it. But I think that's what it was the idea of, like, you can choose to maintain a relationship, but accept that, like, all right, you know, we will date or we will be friends. We'll be this. And we get, obviously, because we get along on so many levels, everything's great, except for this, how you hurt me.
Right.
I don't forgive you for it.
Well, see, and I
not right now.
I agree with the whole maintaining a healthy relationship with someone, you know, that may have wronged you or whatnot, however you
want to put
stated that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that there's a fine line between a relationship as far as friendship and a romantic relation. Because a friendship, I've had friends that have done some pretty horrible shit to me, and I've done some pretty bad shit to them. And yes, we have maintained a, you know, quote, healthy relationship, friendly relationship. But as far as romantic relationships, I don't think it's possible. You can try and you could try and you could try, but when you pull those sheets off the you know, off the windows, something's gonna shine through.
I think it's, I maybe that's what it is that I see where you're coming from with that, in that when it's friends that fuck each other over, it pisses you off and it hurts you. But there seems to be more of a road of redemption. It's like, bro, don't ever fucking do that to me again. You're walking on thin ice as it is, but don't do it again. And so don't do it again, or you're done. When it comes to a romantic one, it's almost a thought of something's lacking. It's like if you're cheating, maybe there's a lot of things wrong in your relationship, and maybe it's a character flaw. Maybe you know someone cheated, and it's because you just shouldn't be with that person that's cheating, you know, and the person that's cheating, they shouldn't be with you because their heart and their mind is somewhere else. And it's a big compatibility thing. It's almost like, fuck, the relationship is like a unspoken contract / spoken, but, and then when you cheat, you break the contract. So why are you in the contract?
Yeah, there is no contract with friendships necessarily. There's unspoken rules.
Mm-hmm.
And if you break those unspoken rules, you can tell them, and usually they'll abide by them. But in a relationship, it's written rules. You don't cheat. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's not on paper, basically. Like a friendship isn't all just this, and this, you know, expectations. There's almost no expectations with friendships. I think that's the big difference is expectations.
Mm-hmm. It's like with friends, get along, don't do anything that necessarily fucks someone over in their life really bad. But that's about it. When it comes to a relationship, though, and that's almost what I said.
And get my back. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I almost said with the relationship, it was an unspoken contract in that it was just that no contract's been signed. You know, it's not like literal that way, but it's not like it comes with rules. You don't, and even with like you don't cheat on people. You don't cheat on them. That's what you're getting in the relationship. You agree to not do that.
You don't hurt them. You don't
physically or mentally abuse them, and you don't, you know, and some people even personally come with their own rules.
Right. Yeah. And you're going to, if you want any part of that, you know, like if you're trying to gain a friendship, you don't lay down rules. Okay. Well, I expect this, this, and this. In a relationship, most times that's what happens. I want a guy that is trustworthy, that is, you know, honest, that is loyal. You know, you don't do that to a friend because you don't have that necessarily high of expectations.
Yeah, you get along. You gotta pee?
I'm about to piss myself, buddy. And honestly, I need to go cook fucking dinner or something too, man.
Okay. Can I just say one thing? Let's just take a piss, come back, and let's just do some closing thoughts. We'll just do some quick closing thoughts. We'll just conclude it and we'll say bye.
Oh, okay.
Go. All right, go pee.
Okay. Me too.
Yeah, I was holding back on the pee, but your eventual saying of your gestures, I was like, "You got to pee? Great. That's awesome."
Okay.
Yeah, everybody,
no, go ahead. I don't even have to piss, man. That's fucking crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, just sit here. I'm like, you're just pissing in a bowl underneath the table.
I was honestly thinking about it. I was like, I bet he wouldn't even notice.
No, the problem is with our mics being a little fucky, I might. Just like you think you're being slight, I hear. Like,
in my face, like giving a sigh of relief.
Yeah, I'd be like, Dustyn, did you just piss in front of me? I watched your face.
No.
No, it's weird you'd ask me, as you're saying.
It's weird. Why? Are you pissing under the table right now? We're both like, yeah.
Yeah. No, I had a moment of bliss. I was pissing, and I was hand up against the wall. Oh, holding myself up.
Thank
and I was
Christ.
like, some people, they're like, I was looking up at that moon. I knew you were looking up at it, too. I was like sitting there standing at the wall. I was like, I'm pissing, Dustyn's pissing, we're all pissing at the same time.
We're all pissing, yeah.
Wherever he's at.
I wonder if he's looking at the wall with his right hand pressed against it too.
Yeah. Watching the foam build in the toilet.
I was too, yeah. Yeah. Watching it swirl round and round while he was looking at it too.
Yeah. It was beautiful. But, we were talking about forgiveness and all that, and I'll just conclude it with just, that's a weird fucking thing. Everything we talked about, it's one of those things, you can't conclude it. But it's part of the human experience to, give it some thought, think about it. And most
really
people don't.
Yeah, most people don't think as critically as I feel like they need to.
They think it's black and white. It's this or it's that. And I'm like, well, I think you need to see both sides and wait a little bit.
Right.
And I think you'll see. Nothing's so clear cut.
No, because that gray is just where people meet in the middle.
Which I believe in this 100%, and I hope, I think we should call it a night. I think you worked tomorrow, don't you?
Oh, you bet your sweet ass I do.
Yeah, I'm fortunate. I have tomorrow off, but as bad a worker as I am, for some reason, they have me teaching classes to people on how to be a better worker.
Oh, well, hey.
So, that's who I am.
So what you can do is fucking leave me alone. Don't ask me questions.
Yeah.
If I smell like vodka or beer, don't tell the manager.
Let it go, or I will say it was just cleaner.
Yeah.
And most
people ammonia. I was cleaning toilets that morning.
And most people will talk behind your back, and a lot of women run this place. There's going to be a lot of gossip, and on top of that, it's a lot of horseshit.
Yeah.
So
I will gossip to some of the chicks in the kitchen that you have herpes, and
I will spread it.
Yeah, I will spread the word, and so will they.
Yeah, I act as though I'm a bigger person than that, but I'm really not. So buckle up.
Yeah. So
and after that, just have fun with it all.
Yeah. Other than that, welcome to the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they made me go on 3 hours of. And the cycle of service is when the person drives up, they have judgments on your business. So how can we do that? I'm like, but I'm thinking on the inside of my head, I have nothing to do with this. I wash dishes and shit.
Yeah, what the
Wash
fuck am I doing
dishes
here?
well. Serve
Yeah.
food to old people well.
Well, do it good.
Don't spit in the food if you can help it.
If you can help it. If you have to sneeze, you know what? That's okay.
Go when the person you hate's food. At least.
At least. Yeah.
Do God's work.
Yeah. Holding on to newborn babies, even though I have a terrible cold.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, that's horrible. I know. He's a very bad mitten.
God damn
He
it.
just agrees.
I know.
I'm
What is that fucking-
going through changes.
Oh, that bro.
Oh,
Is
is there milk in this?
Yeah. What? Fuck. What is? God damn it. What is that
Feed them
show?
Yogurt. Big Mouth.
Big Mouth. Oh my God. Yeah. No. Well, this year they were supposed to come out with the next season. I don't know when, but we'll see. These crazy times are ruining everything for us.
Yeah, no shit.
Well, I will say this. You know what? I wrote a shit ton of notes for
I
us.
am Morgan Freeman. Listen to the soothing sound of my voice.
The earth is dying.
The earth is flat. Good night.
God
Leave-
damn.
I'm going to leave you on that note. Yeah. No.
Leave me on that note, and maybe think about, you just bought this brand new mic, you got some shit, man. Really, like most people, that's the danger of almost doing a distance call is they'll do exactly what we're doing now. Well, I'll have it perfected after this. This has taught me a lot, but a lot of people, they don't have the equipment if you do a distance thing, so you accept it's going to be the quality that it is. But you went and bought all this stuff, so I think we should think about doing some stuff. Just let's just see what happens. See. See. Well, exactly. See, you said it. But we'll depart things now. We'll conclude it. But I do stand by. Think about some stuff you want to create. Maybe you want to use this mic for something. Get back to me. We don't have to do it on the show. We're people. We text. We talk. We're people.
Yes, we do. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know what else I'd do with the mic other than like this,
I'll send some ideas your way. That's exactly what I've been thinking about. Stay tuned, audience. I got some stuff coming your way.
Stay super tuned. Was that seductive or was that just creepy? So I was kind of going for creepy.
I think once we really nail the mic, when we're not on this fucking Zoom, when we really nail it, I think we can get an ASMR and we can really like, hey, I think you're beautiful. I'm rubbing my nipples for you.
I just licked this dirty mic.
A lot of people have coughed into it, and the risk is what really gets me hard.
So dirty.
We got a career ahead of us, Dustyn. God damn it.
Coronavirus. Yeah.
Coronavirus. Oh, all right. Well, on that beautiful setting, Dustyn, I got to say thank you for agreeing to do this with me. It's sometimes hard to twist people's arms to get to do this, but
yeah, my arm was already broke when I bought this. So
yeah, and I was going to lean on you. It was like, so what is knowing you for you're 23, right?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes. Yeah.
So knowing you for
Yes,
23 years, knowing you for 23 years ain't fucking enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, you agreed to do it right away.
Something about you, I just don't like you.
What the fuck?
Yeah, what? Yeah, something about you, man.
It's been 23 years, Dustyn.
I don't know what it is.
It's your face. It's always been your face.
Your fucking face, man. Yeah.
All right. I'll let you go, man. Have a good night. And as always, I will. I'm going to fucking try to pretend I'm going to edit this and then go pass out drunk somewhere. So You know what I mean?
Hopefully your bed or the couch or maybe at least the carpet. Don't do it outside. That just is unprofessional.
I will end up in somebody's apartment.
It may not be my own, but I will pass out on a couch.
So, buckle up, babies.
Buckle up, neighbors.
Yeah, neighbors.
Get that strap on.
Oh, shit.
Because daddy's a super freak.
Oh. All right, buddy.
Yeah, the next morning.
Yeah.
Why did I burn my ass again?
Yeah.
Your neighbor just look. Nah.
Baby. Nah.
Shush. Come back to bed.
Before we say any more that is inappropriate and totally not okay, let's conclude on that. And you have a good night. And I love you, man.
All right, I love you too, buddy. You have a good one as well.
I will, and I'm going to end this recording and then awkwardly still be talking to you after this.